If he has good technique, if his technique becomes great, not just good, then he's a Hall of Famer. Fight, the contact fight, the offensive line, being a double team, multiple moves stacked into one, just to play a pure domination. It's actual film, it's actual football talk. It's a football show, it's football, not storylines.
And you are watching / maybe listening to another edition of Blitz Live. Kyle Smith, what is up, my man?
How you doing, Joe? I'm doing pretty good. Starting to finally dive into some of these draft prospects. Big thank you to you for putting out some of that film because I've been behind on my own watching. But yeah, it's officially draft season, man, and combine and all that stuff coming up. So things are going pretty good. How about yourself?
You have to do that shame walk. You just watched Game of Thrones. You have to do that shame walk now that you're not watching draft prospects yet. That's a damn shame,
dude. That whole thing, I didn't understand it for the longest time. Everybody's like was always tweeting out those GIFs and stuff, and I didn't know that much about Game of Thrones. Like, what the hell is this? Yeah, that was a really popular GIF. Anyway,
yeah, for sure. Second time on StreamYard. I know the intro is a little bit low for the sound. It's a little bit like low quality. I just have to figure out how to share my sound through the computer, not through my mic to my mic or through my computer speakers to my microphone. So that'll be fixed. But who gives a shit? Really. What's up, Motivated?
Joe's good at watching film and evaluating it, but he's not good with technology.
No, not at all. I can share comments now. Did you see that from last time? Kyle, look at this.
I didn't. I do see that. So.
Wild. I could Shadow, Nick Integra, Eagle. It's all good. I kind of feel like that's like, all right, you try, the theme of tonight was the fact that should the Jets do a Becton trade? We'll talk about that in a little bit once more people jump in here. And you need a headline. You need a flashy headline. There's people who are like, you guys are idiots about creating Becton. It's like, no, you need to catch a headline. If I just put up live stream, JetX live stream, it's gonna get much less clicks. There's just a way to do it. What's up, Richard Soma? Love the show, guys. Yes, trade Becton. Never draft player 70 pounds overweight, not expecting to gain weight. I don't know if he's necessarily 70 pounds overweight, but that might be a little bit of a reach, especially for a guy who's 6'7". Are people calling Evan Neal, who's 6'6", 6'7", at 360 overweight? No, not to my knowledge. People are calling him a mammoth of a human. Rusty, what's up? But I'm gonna highlight all the comments. I love this. But what are you gonna say, Kyle? Go ahead.
I'll wait. You can have your fun with the StreamYard and highlight in the comments. We shouldn't get into Becton, Neal, and all that stuff right now, so we can wait for that.
Yeah. The only other thing I will announce, I'll say this a couple times. I think the show last time where I just did it solo with you guys, and had callers. Let's see if I can. Solomon, Taylor, Zeus, Elias, Mike, Afram, and Joey called in. So I appreciate all of you. Hopefully you call in again. But because of the response to that show and me doing it solo and people liking it, I'm going to do a Thursday show with Kyle. And then the next week, I'm going to do a Wednesday show. Then the next week, I'm going to do a Thursday show. Then the next week, I'm going to do a Wednesday show. So Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday. So it's not going to be every single Thursday. So I hope you guys can adjust that and figure that out for yourselves. But it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to do it again. Or do it every single week now, do a show every single week. And that Wednesday show is going to be mostly driven by you guys. If you guys have nothing to talk about that show, it's going to be short because I'm not bringing any topics to the table for the most part, the week's topics. And then that's pretty much it. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, JoeRB31. I think I'm like 30 or so away from 6K, so that'd be cool. And then I think we're like 200 away from 6K on YouTube as well. Also follow Kyle if he didn't change his thing yet.
I haven't changed it in a long time, jerk.
Long time is like less than a year, right?
It's like about a year or something.
About a year. Like, yeah, I haven't changed my Twitter handle since I got on in like 2010. So.
Well, you have a cool Twitter because your presence on Twitter is cool, but your handle sucks.
Yeah, JoeRB31. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Nick, he may be more than 70. You're talking about pounds overweight for a 6'7" guy who's playing tackle? No,
he's
not true.
70 pounds overweight.
Afram, what is up? Look forward to another good take, or hopefully multiple good takes. Maybe I'll take one good take for a 2-hour show. So did anything come out of the Senior Bowl? You're going to talk about that a little bit too. I probably should have wrote some names down of like guys who made some impacts. We could do it off the top of our heads. Eagle can't wait for the combine. Sergeant Mike's in here. Becton was taken out by a dirty play. Yeah. So the only other thing that I could, do you want to start with let's do, let's start with the Becton thing. We're already getting asked about it.
Okay.
The thing is with Becton, I'm not labeling him injury prone because of this year, because a freak injury when you're getting rolled up on by GVR is not a freak thing to happen. Doesn't matter if you're 370, 300, 250, not 190 pounds. You get rolled up on like that, you're going to get injured. Obviously, being lighter, maybe you'd slip from underneath of it, etc. But still, you're going to get injured. Past that, it's really about his rookie year. Like his rookie year, he started in what, 12, 13, 14 games. But how many of those games did he come out?
But can I give you a slight modification of what you're saying and maybe correct? This injury was only supposed to be maximum 8 weeks until he recovered this year, but it was all season. So yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a freak injury. And yeah, that could have happened to anyone. It could have happened to the most, not injury prone person in the world. But the fact is Becton had a longer recovery period. And is that because he's a big man? That's what Robert Saleh seemed to imply. Like, yeah, he's a big man and everybody recovers differently. That's almost a verbatim quote from Saleh. But also, was Becton doing enough in terms of his physical therapy and stuff? I don't know. But then, like, to what you said last year too, yeah, it seemed like it was every other week that he was coming out for a couple plays here and there. So I don't know.
Yeah. The thing is with him being so heavy and already having to obviously have a really clean diet and stay on top of cardio to maintain his 370, 365, whatever it is that he's ideally at, for him to not be able to move, it's obviously going to be harder for him to maintain his weight. So when I heard he was a little bit overweight now, okay, I was like, well, his knee is banged up. It's going to be hard to maintain that weight. But then you also get like some of the comments from the Jets staff where they're talking about motivating him and he needs to do this. He needs to compete for the left tackle spot. So they're not like instilling a lot of confidence in Becton, like through the media. So it's a little bit concerning with that. And now that he's competing with Fant, which I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. Like you have people who are on both sides of the fence in terms of, oh, well, Becton's a top, 10th, 11th pick, whatever he was, first round high pick. He should have his spot locked down. What is this bullshit? But at the same token, they'll also say, oh, well, we love the fact that Saleh is a guy who makes people compete for their positions and doesn't give any, handouts. So I like the fact that he's competing with Fant. And in Fant's mind too, like he was signed here to be a left tackle. His upswing that I watched in Seattle was at left tackle. And then he gets signed, and then he gets displaced to play right tackle, which with the Jets, a lot of people like have that conversation about right tackle versus left tackle for in the draft in terms of, oh, well, they needed a left tackle, so they drafted Becton. Why couldn't they have drafted Wirfs and kept Fant at left tackle where they originally signed him to play? So I don't think that really comes into the conversation. I think they just picked what they think to be the better player. So I like the competition aspect. Do you hate that, Kyle? Do you like that? Do you think Becton wins it? What do you think happens to that whole situation?
Oh no, I like it. I do like it. And even from fans' perspective, like you can see, like he can almost feel disrespected in a way, like, oh, you're gonna go sign Morgan Moses. Like, you really think I'm not that good? Even though, like, he had the best right tackle season for the Jets in quite a while. But going back to Becton for a moment, like think about the intro that you play every week for this show. And there's that clip where you're talking about Becton in there. If he really maximizes, you say something along the lines of, if he maximizes his full potential, then he's a Hall of Famer. And I think with Becton, like, I think part of the reason why the coaching staff is, maybe trying to motivate him in certain ways and things like this, and putting out a comment here or there to the media is because they realize how insanely talented this guy is. He's a fucking freak. He just is. Like, yeah, he needs to work on certain things.
Yeah.
I think they want him to reach that, peak, but he needs a ways to go to get there. And if I'm being honest, I watched your, Aquanu film review and your Evan Neal film review. And I gotta be honest, in my opinion, Becton is a way better prospect than either of those guys. It's true. Maybe saying way better is a bit of a stretch, but as far as a left tackle,
okay,
Becton in my mind, there's no question that I think he's the better prospect than either one of those guys as a left tackle.
I'm not sure if I said it on, and we'll get into the prospect stuff because I put out new stuff. And by the way, for the people who are concerned about that, really, so quickly, I've done, and I want people's comments on this in the chat. And I'm a little bit behind the chat. I'm at 608. I'll get through all your stuff. I see the super chat. I appreciate that. Jan, I'll get to it in a second. But with that being said, in that we'll get to this, those guys. And I think I did Thibodeau, Hamilton, Neal, Aquanu.
Sauce
Gardner,
I don't know if you put it out
Jermaine. No, Jermaine Johnson's not.
You didn't
not
put that one out yet.
Carl Loftus. So
Mhm.
pretty much, I have a list for the guy for the people in the chat. Let me see if I could find it in 2 seconds. Hopefully, I freaking can. I basically have a list of the receivers, which is London, Wilson, Burks, Lloyd, Dean, and then I have what's the edge rusher? Ojaba and who's the top one? Hutchinson. And I kind of want to know what people want to see after I'm already done with what I'm doing right now, because I need to know. Okay, so yeah, so it's Hutchinson, Burks, Lloyd, Wilson, Dean, London.
I'd like to see Hutchinson from you because
Booth, McDuffie, Stingley, Ojaba. And I want to know, like, I'm going to do at least 3 or 4 of those guys, in addition to what you're already going to be getting, which is Hamilton, Thibs, Aquanu, Neal, Carl Loftus, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, and Tyler Linderbaum. You're getting all those people. They're already pretty much done. But the issue, and people have been asking, like, what the hell is going on? Why are they not being posted? I'm not going to give the exact details, but basically when we post, it also goes through third-party sites who are associated with us. And we're having issues with those sites in terms of just the technical aspect of it being posted to other sites. So we're going to get 50% less of the views if we don't post if we post it now. So we're kind of sitting on it a little bit. So I apologize for that, but it's just something we're working out. But you're gonna say something?
Oh no.
Okay. But yeah, in that Neal review, I said while watching him, and maybe we'll dive into him a little bit deeper. But this is just in terms of Becton. The whole Becton thing is Neal in that draft class that Becton came out of. He would easily be tackle 4 or 5 for me, but like very, very easily. I think he's the exact opposite of Andrew Thomas, where Andrew Thomas is a really good run blocker, a bad pass blocker, uber aggressive. Neal,
but I think all right, hold on, pause for a moment on Andrew Thomas. I wouldn't say Andrew Thomas was a bad pass blocker. Like, so you always like to talk about process versus results. Now, his process with pass blocking, it looked ugly. Like he had ugly footwork, but he won a lot on pass blocking reps. But when you watch Neal in the run game, like he just gets beat a lot. Like not only does the process look bad, like he's high, he's aiming way too far with his hands, way too wide with his hands and getting splashed, but he's also just getting his ass kicked and he's getting thrown around by guys who are way smaller than him.
He's very soft to me. Like I'm not gonna lie. And again, we'll go through the list.
So I would have Andrew Thomas as a higher prospect than him.
Yeah, me too. Because at least he was tough. Like Neal, there's times where he catches a guy's hips on combo blocks and the guy's not even facing him and he barely moves him. Like he is a very soft player for 360s. And I'm not like people talk about Neal at 4 and they talk about how much they like him. I want to hear why people love him so much, to be completely honest, other than his size.
He's Alabama and his size.
If he was at pick 10 and they picked him, I would be disappointed. Legitimately. And we'll get into other stuff. But with Becton versus Fant, who do you think wins that battle for left tackle? Do you think it is Becton? Do you think Becton would be a much worse right tackle? Obviously, he has to learn to.
I think it's going to be Becton. I think it's going to be Becton. I mean, dude, you drafted him 11th overall. He had a good rookie year, and Fant already has the experience playing right. I think it's mostly just the coaches trying to light a fire under Becton's ass because they want him to reach that Hall of Fame type potential. Mm-hmm. I think when it's all said and done, we're going to be thankful that we got George Fant for his 3rd year of his contract, and he's going to be playing right tackle again. And
now, does that piss a guy off in Fant? Do you think he is less likely to resign after we move him back to right tackle, where he's obviously not as comfortable playing?
Maybe, but if at the end of the day too, if he lost the competition fair and square, I mean, Fant has to know that Becton is a monster, mm-hmm. right? It's not like, for example, like Mitch Trubisky, like, yeah, he was drafted 2nd overall, and that's part of the reason he played so much for the Bears, but he just sucked. Like, part of the reason they played him so much is because, we took him 2nd overall, so we got to play him. Becton, on the other hand, like, Becton put out a lot of good tape. So, like, is George Fant really going to think, like, okay, yeah, like, I am really better than this guy? I don't think so. I don't know.
I think based on how he played this year, I don't think it's crazy for him to think that he could be better than him. Like, he was legitimately in that top 10 ish range. So is it crazy to think, like, I don't think George Fant thinks of himself as some type of like just decent tackle anymore. Like I think he thinks he's kind of a stud, and he's found his way at left tackle with the Jets, and only letting up a sack or two, whatever it was this year. And obviously having minimal playing time before he came to the Jets, and obviously is on the upswing. Like I know he's 29, I think 29 years old, and people act like he's so old, but tackles can last. Look at guys like Whitworth and whoever else in the league, and especially considering the he doesn't have a lot of miles on those tires.
Jason
like
Peters.
He has plenty of room left. Like he could be a solid left tackle at his level he's at right now until his mid-30s easily. So people are like, oh, we'll get rid of him, we have to trade him, whatever. He's going to be 30, 31, 32 soon. Why? Like he could be good for years and years. It's not like he's a running back. It's not like he's a corner. And especially considering he got his start at 27 years old. Why are we so happy to get rid of this guy? I really don't get it. But with that being said, so okay, Becton wins the left tackle job. Fant wins the right tackle job. Now let's say they go into the draft, and for whatever reason they draft Neal, who people say he could play guard. He cannot. I shut that down right now. He cannot play guard. There's absolutely no way he's going to play guard.
Is this a guy you want pulling and kicking someone out? Absolutely not.
That, and I can't imagine with his hands if he's taking on guys like Aaron Donald and Quinnen Williams,
Sheldon Rankins, man.
Cox, Sheldon Rankins. Like there's no, the tallest guard, I'm pretty sure to the best of my knowledge, is 6'7", and I'm sure that guy to play at guard was a nasty motherfucker. Neal he's soft. It just is what it is. He's not a guard. So if you're drafting Neal, he is playing tackle. If they played him at guard, I would severely doubt the decision-making of John Benton and the offensive staff. So with that being said, he's playing tackle.
That would be one of the most idiotic moves ever for a guy who's clearly a tackle. That is his best thing. He's clearly much better in pass pro, and then you draft him to play guard. That would be one of the most asinine moves ever.
So let's say he does get drafted at 4, we're going to talk about our worst case scenario for 4 and 10. I'm going to tell you right now, him at 4 is my worst case scenario in terms of realistic stuff. Like obviously taking a guy would be a UDFA is the worst case scenario, but realistically, so they draft him. That means that one, you're filling a position that you already think is filled with Becton and Fant. So now you're going to be forced to trade one of those guys. So you're replacing a question mark with a question mark. Like Becton to him, Becton's a better prospect. Yeah, Becton has had some injuries, but now you're getting rid of him for a guy in Neal, who I think is a much worse prospect than Becton was coming out of Louisville. So now you're forced to trade the guy. What's the minimum you take for Becton if they were to draft a Neal? Obviously, they could trade a Fant too. I just don't see that happening because I don't know how much value he'd really get. So if you're thinking big picture, they'd probably trade Becton. So what's the minimum you'd take for Becton in a trade? Like, hey, the Steelers call up. I think I just talked about this with Scott Mason the other day on his podcast, which didn't come out yet. But they call up and say, okay, pick 20 for Becton. Like again, they're throwing something out there. Not people. This is not like I'm not going through this with a fine tooth comb, but a later first round pick right now. You draft Neal, he replaces Becton. And then you have Fant. You re-sign Moses to be a backup. I don't know what's gonna happen, backup tackle. But do you take that trade right now for Becton?
I'm sorry. Well, you're asking me as if I'm Joe Douglas and I am in the position that I have evaluated these guys, and the whole reason I'd be making this trade is because I'm drafting Evan Neal.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like Evan Neal that much as a prospect, so I'm not making that trade. Mm-hmm. I'm not drafting Evan Neal and trading Becton. I wouldn't want to trade Becton regardless, but there's no way I'm not even like it would have to be a first round pick, but even then more I'm not ready to give up on Becton yet just because he's had, some injuries his rookie year. He didn't miss it's not act like he missed a ton of time his rookie year. This year was disappointing. Why did it take so long for him to recover? It is definitely a question mark. But I still maintain there is a lot of specialness to his game. And I'm not ready to give up on that after 2 years. Right. So that's where I stand with that. I'm sorry. A prospect like him, doesn't come around super, super often. And even if he does, what's your ability that you're going to be have the ability to draft him? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was kind of the mind of okay, if, and I'm going to hit the chat, I got to see some stuff. If there was a Jedrick Wills, let's say Jedrick Wills at the top of the draft and they took him at 4, much more reasonable conversation because I loved Jedrick Wills coming out. And obviously, Wirfs has been better than him at this time, but I still really liked Wills. So if there was a prospect I legitimately liked, then it's a conversation for me. Wills, replace Becton, get a late or late first round or later first round pick. You take whoever there, Jermaine Johnson or I don't know, one of the receivers or Nakobe Dean. I'll be okay with that, but not with Neal. And that's the main crux of the conversation, because that would be obviously dependent on you drafting Neal, who I am not a fan of. I don't get the love from him at all. And you kind of explained it to me, Kyle. Alabama, big, people watch a couple highlights of him, and I don't even know what the highlights consist of, to be completely honest, because I rarely saw him pancake or move guys. So I don't know what the highlights are of that guy, but nonetheless, let's get to the.
You want to talk about Aquanu? Oh, well, we should probably go to the chat.
Yeah, I'll do the questions, and then we'll talk about the reviews a little bit that I did, and we can talk about Neal a little bit too if you want to dive in just a little.
Probably
bit
start
more
off with the super chat first.
Well, I'm gonna move down in order. Who wins a 7-game series? Nets or Raptors? The probably the Raptors right now, because the Nets have absolutely nobody healthy. But yeah, that whole situation with Harden's obviously disappointing. But I think getting Simmons 2 first-round picks back and one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA right now in terms of efficiency is not a bad consolation prize. Obviously, they have to hope to get Ben Simmons' mental right, but we'll see. Yes, that's what I've heard. Joe Namath stupid comments in terms of talking about that right now. Some of the comments were based around Zach Wilson being short, right? Like something about him being 6'2", and Joe Namath likes guys who were 6'6" or 6'7". And who were the guys who were 6'6", 6 like you have like Herbert's around that, right? Like he's probably like 6'5", 6'6". Lawrence.
Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler, 6'7".
Brock Osweiler, like what are we? Joe Flacco, he's like probably 6'6", 6'5", right?
He's a good 6'6", yeah.
You know, but like other than that, like all the other quarterbacks in the NFL are shorter than that. They're all like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". So
I think comes from. Listen, Joe Namath comes from that older era where quarterbacks were taller on average. So.
Yeah, but he wasn't even that tall. Like he's
he wasn't
6'2", 6'3". And with that being said, like. I honestly, to be completely honest, I couldn't give 2 shits less about what Joe Namath says. Like he's like 85 years old, and he seems like he's not.
Dude, remember when he talks? Do you remember on Hard Knocks when he was on Mark Sanchez's ass about how he's taking his snaps from under center, and Joe Namath was like, "No, you gotta clap the ball as you're snapping it from under center. You should be doing this as you take your snaps." And I just remember, listen, it's been 10-something years since I watched the Jets on Hard Knocks. But like, I just remember the coaching staff and like some other like people would just be like, okay, we respect this guy for what he did, but like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like some people kind of looking at him like that.
We'll get to Ickham in a little bit.
He's made an ass of himself publicly more than once.
Yeah. No. Again, Ickham can play guard. I think Ickham is a better guard than he is a tackle. And if he's going to be a pro ball, all pro guard, then keep them all together. Now you have the conversation. If you draft Ickham at right guard and he's lighting, and even if he just plays to expectation, Becton has an injury prone year, then do you kick him to right tackle, left tackle? Then it's a conversation, but you don't draft Ickham and just move one of those guys. Neal is a prospect where you have to, one of those guys is gone. Obviously this is sarcastic, but the last time people were talking about him being overweight, he posted a clip of him working out, and he was the most jacked up 370 I've ever seen in my entire life. Like the most skinny you could be for that weight. So you don't really know. Like we'll see how he responds this year. Year 3.
No, not the most jacked 370. You've seen Bob Sapp before.
Okay, yeah. NFL level offensive lineman. It's the most jacked I've pretty much ever seen. Tom Kelly, no, not today. But next Wednesday I will, and maybe sometimes we'll do call-ins with Kyle Smith. But we can talk about a topic. We've already gotten through one topic and it's been 30 minutes, so I just we can't fit callers too. There's just no way. Okay. Moving on. Let's see. Would you trade back for Dallas for Cooper and 24? What's the value of that?
No.
Don't they have like pick? If it was like pick 20, I don't know what the value of that. I think
that's a big trade back for a player with a big contract.
I think his value is about a third and another mid-round pick, like a third and a fifth. I'd be cool with Cooper for. I don't know if Kyle and I have talked about this.
I've said a third.
Third and a fifth right now. Sign the dotted line. It's either done or not.
Yeah. Sure. What's a fifth? But yeah, I do it for a third and a fifth, I guess. I'm definitely not giving up a second. No way.
No. Especially if the second was like a 52. Okay, now we're talking. But a 35
I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even do that either.
I would do it if it's like a later half of the second round. Because my thing is with the offensive line, or not the offensive line, with the offense in general, I want to go into the draft with enough flexibility to draft BPA. Like I don't want to go into the draft knowing, okay, we need a tight end, we need a receiver, we need a guard. I want to hit that stuff in free agency so we have that flexibility to take BPA. And especially considering this draft, the pick 4 or 10, I'm telling you right now too, this is another not necessarily worst case scenario. If they were to take a receiver at 10, I'm not going to be happy. I don't think any of those guys are worth it. Again, I think when you stack them up to the classes of Jamar Chase, Waddle, Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Lamb, they're below all of those guys. So you're reaching for a position that people think is sexy for players who don't deserve to be a 10th overall pick. And then on top of that, compare the receivers in the London, Wilson, Burks to the guys in the second round. Like how much is the drop off? Is there that much of a drop off where it's worth taking those guys at 10 over 35 or 38? Where it's the Dotsons and Bells and whoever else is out there. I don't think so. So I would rather trade a pick for a receiver who and this is all centered around the fact that he has to negotiate his contract. I'm not paying Cooper $22 million in the next 2 years. So he would have to come to the Jets and renegotiate that down. Maybe they extended a year and he's getting paid $15-16 million, which to me is low tier money. With that, remember, guys like Nelson Aguilar are making $12.5 million a year. Remember, with that, guys like Kenny Golladay are getting paid $19.5 million, $19 million. He didn't even get a touchdown. So to me, Cooper is valued at a lower tier number one, and $16 million a year is lower tier number one money. I think he's a good fit for the offense in terms of his yak ability and his route running. Now, obviously, I want to watch for myself and see if he's truly worth it. But
why do you think he would renegotiate his contract though?
If they're going to give him an extra year, maybe he would. Obviously they're gonna look to trade him or cut him. So then he's going to lose all of that money. So if you renegotiate the Jets, hey, this is probably what you're going to get in free agency, and we'll throw an extra year onto it or give him some incentives, something like that. Like I think it's a possibility. I don't want him for $20+ million a year. But I think somebody's going to trade for him. So if you can renegotiate, give him a third and a fifth, I would be down for Cooper. You look at a receiver core of Cooper, and again, people are going to stat hump. They're going to type in his stats and look on Google. Understand he's playing with CeeDee Lamb, he's playing with Gallup, he's playing with Schultz, he's playing with Pollard, he's playing with Ezekiel Elliott. So yeah, his numbers are going to drop, but I still think he's a number one type wide receiver. Now he's not DeAndre Hopkins or any one of these guys, but he's still number one. And if you boast the receiver room of Cooper, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and then you add on to the tight end room and maybe the running backs a little bit and the offensive line, like that offense is pretty stacked up. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know if you want to hit on anything with that.
No, I pretty much agree. I really loved Amari Cooper. He was my favorite player in that draft. I really wanted him instead of Leonard Williams. We were picking at 6 that year. He went 4 to the Raiders. I was a big fan of him. Definitely one of the best route runners to come out in a while.
So
he has suspect hands, but yeah, I like the player. But
yeah, so Cooper would be $20 million per year. I don't know. Cooper in the open market is not getting $20 million a year. He's 27, and with being 27, he got drafted at 19, 20. So he's an older 27. Like he's really like 28, 29. So
he was like a young 20, really young 20.
Yeah,
I think,
so he's not getting $20 million in the open market. I severely doubt that. I think 15, 16, 17 million would be more of his range, unless you got one really desperate team. But I don't think so.
I mean, part of the reason he got 20 on this current contract was because he was so young, but that was 2 years ago, right? And since those 2 years, he hasn't lit the world on fire. And now he's a little bit older, so that was his open market, his first time hitting the open market. It's not going to be like that this time around.
Yeah. Let's see. Does anyone have any data on linemen that get this type of injury and amount of time? I don't really see a lot of people with dislocated kneecaps, but again, the initial prognosis was 8 weeks, right? So
maximum it was like 4 to 8 weeks was the projections we were seeing.
Yeah. Kyle, I can hear a little bit of echo too, and I don't know why I can hear echo through your mic right now. I don't know if that's me or not. Chris, why does he need a nutritionist every year, regardless if you needed one in college? You should. Yeah, that's my thing with okay, if he's getting a nutritionist now, he's known that his weight was a problem. Like he got questions about that even in college. So why is it taking him so long to get in? Unless he got a new nutritionist, but why don't you have a nutritionist from the jump? And even regardless. If you're in the NFL, it doesn't matter if you're a 240-pound linebacker. Wouldn't you, if you have millions of dollars, Kyle, wouldn't you hire a nutritionist anyway? I feel like I would hire a nutritionist, a chef, all this stuff, a masseuse. I would be getting worked up all the time. That's what a guy like LeBron James does. That's why he's about to bring him up, dominating at 37, 38 years old. Well, he's dropped off a little bit. He's still not number one or probably in the top 5. But still, like Tom Brady, nutrition, big part of it, workout program, big part of it. So like, why are these guys? That's a little bit not like a red flag, but maybe it's just kids being stupid. I don't know.
I don't know why somebody would knock him for that. I mean, like, and you should. It's honestly should be something he should be given credit for, because he's a kid who struggled with weight his pretty much entirety of his life, being so big. Okay, let me hire a nutritionist to keep myself in check. I don't see why it should be not. I mean, like, he's a big dude. He's just naturally big. Look at his father. Look at his mother. All right, comes from a big family. Are you still hearing the echo?
No, it's better now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is a super chat from Jan. What do you think about the Badlands podcast? Will you ever go on with them? I don't listen to them. I know it's paid, so definitely don't listen to them. And would I ever go on with them? I don't think that's gonna happen. Let's just say that.
Well, Joe, let me put it to you this way: if they asked you,
would you go on? I'd go on plenty of other podcasts. Yeah, I would do it. Any really thing. Go on Charman's. I've been on. I just went on Play Like a Jet. I just went on Green Beans last week. Ryan's. Some other I forget. There's some other ones. Other teams. I don't care. But I'd really doubt that.
So you were highly requested out there.
Sometimes I'm not.
Jan, thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, Jan, $10. You can just ask me that. You don't have to do that. But hey, super chats are always appreciated, because I'm not gonna hit everything. I'm sorry. No. What's up, Pyro? Let's see. Becton ain't only player supposed to come back that didn't. Who else did it? Who was another injury this year that somebody was supposed to come back and they didn't?
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah. This is in terms of Becton too. From Mike, nobody wants to give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I get it. I want to win. Dude got hurt. Shit happens. What's lazy is to call him lazy without evidence. If he sucks in camp, can defend him. That's and I agree with that, Mike, too, because people have went to that like really quickly with Becton. I still want to give him a shot. Again, the injury concerns year one were a little bit concerning, but I wasn't going crazy about it. The 1 year two, I couldn't really care any less about. He had the injury problems, or he had the weight concerns. He showed up that picture and he was absolutely yoked up. Year one, he was getting dominated by Jordan Jenkins in camp. Okay, fine. Comes out in the NFL and is playing at a pretty high level for a rookie. And then year two in camp, he's getting dominated by Carl Lawson, who people were freaking out about, who was 10 times the player that Jordan Jenkins is. And people are freaking out about him getting beat there, and people automatically put him in the doghouse because of camp reports from a bunch of beat writers who don't know what the fuck they're watching. That's my, sorry, it is what it is. Thoughts?
I pretty much agree with you what you said, so I don't think I need to elaborate.
Michael Thomas was supposed to play in 20. Yeah, I think that was more contract stuff though. And like he didn't he wait on surgery or something like that? Like that's more of him being not down with the Saints than him actually not being healthy.
I really don't know what his situation was, to be honest.
Pyro, that is a fact. I don't think that's up for debate.
Pirlo.
Pyro legend. We always do this. When did Salah? He just had some stuff in the media. Like, do you remember the exact quotes, Kyle, in terms of what exactly he said?
I don't remember Salah calling Becton lazy. I just remember Salah saying, you can clearly tell that he was a little bit disappointed. Like Salah's a guy who really loves his players, you can tell. But like just judging on his facial expressions and things like that, and I think I'm pretty good at reading people, you could tell he was disappointed the fact that Mekhi didn't come back this year. But I only remember him saying that he's a very large human being and everyone recovers at like a different pace was kind of his deal. I don't remember him saying that he needs more effort or things like that. I don't remember that coming from Salah's mouth, but I do remember, I feel like I remember seeing beat reporters tweeting about that. And is there a source for that? I mean, is there a source for that reliable? I almost wonder, like, this is the thought that came to my mind. Why is it always that these national guys like Schefter and Rap Sheet are breaking stuff before, Jets insiders and stuff? If these Jets insiders have such good, reliable sources within the organization, why are the national guys breaking first?
I don't think they do. That's
so I don't know. So I'll take that with a grain of salt, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think he's. Yeah, Russ
Fant is not terrible at right
tackle. He's average to a little bit below average. I think that's what he was his first year, but he's definitely not terrible. And what Mike, like, to reiterate what Mike said, Becton at his best, again, there's a reason for the intro of the show. You're talking about him getting clean technique and good technique, and he's healthy. His size, it's not even just his size, it's the way he moves at his size. You're looking at one of the better tackles in the league. You know, like I'm talking like top 5, top 3, like who moves and is as big as Becton in the league. People forget that. Again, it's what have you done for me lately? You guys like roll up on it. It's unfortunate, but I'm not giving up on Becton to draft Neal right now. That's absolutely no way.
Yeah, and to that point, we haven't really talked about Ekwonu that much yet, but I see some people have been talking about him. And I saw you just share a comment with somebody who mentioned him. Dude, look at Ekwonu's footwork when he's dropping back in pass sets, and then look at Becton's when he's dropping. I mean, the footwork it's night and day difference. I am not. There's no way, even if he's at 4, I'm not drafting Ekwonu, and I like Ekwonu as a player. I'm not drafting him at 4 to play tackle for me. I'm not.
Oh no! If they're drafting him at 4, he's a guard. That's no question to me. I severely doubt they would. Draft
And you
him
have to.
tackle.
Okay, is it worth it to draft? See, here's the thing with that. Okay, drafted Quentin Nelson went 6. All right, Quentin Nelson was this generational prospect at guard. Ekwonu, you're drafting him at 4, but it's projection because he didn't play guard. He was playing tackle. So yeah, based on his traits and his mentality, you can see him playing guard. But that's still a little bit risky to take a guy like that in the top 5, top 4 when you haven't seen it yet. So do you really want to do that?
Listen, like past Thibodeau and Hutchinson, like who else do you really want in the top 5? There's really not anybody who's standing out to me in that range. Like who else would you take at 4? Okay, so you don't want Ekwonu, Thibodeau and Hutchinson are gone. Who are you looking at then?
Honestly, man, dude, like after
Sauce?
watching. Dude, I'm not saying take him at 4. Maybe if you could slide back 2-3 picks, if you can get him at 6-7.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Dude, he's good.
He's good, and I am an asshole with corner evaluation. I really like Sauce. Neal sucks. He's been a straight bait. Same with Thibodeau, Hamilton, Stingley, Burks, London, Ekwonu. Okay, Rusty, you're on one tonight. You're some fire and some hot takes. Why does Thibodeau suck? Ekwonu sucks. Hamilton sucks. Like what is about everybody sucking right now? I don't. All about the lower tier guys. There's a reason they're all evaluated in top 5 right now, which I don't think this top 5 is strong, but that's a hot take. Why? How did Carl Lawson beat him so easily in the preseason? Was it new line scheme or just Lawson's quickness? Lawson, you look at his film and what he did in Cincy. He's one of the better rushers on a snap for snap basis in the league. I'm not saying he's not Von Miller in his prime. He's not Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, not one of those guys. But if him healthy. Coming last year, I thought he was going to be easily a top 15, top 10 guy as a rush D end. Yeah.
And you also have to understand, too, like there's part of the reason why Jordan Jenkins was beating him, too. Like defense at that point in the offseason, or excuse me, I guess with preseason is always ahead. Defense is always ahead of the offense. It just is the way that it is. So I wouldn't put too much. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for that, but, you know. As you practice more, offense starts to pick it up, and
the fact that Lawson's more of a condensed body frame, and that's the exact struggle that Becton would have in the league. Like that's the exact frame that you wouldn't want to go against. What about the Jaguars?
When you saw Becton get beat on pass rush snaps his rookie year, it was always, you know, like someone like take for example Mario Addison. I brought this up several times. Like Mario Addison, like he's certainly not an explosive dude or a great athlete or anything like that. He's a good technician. But he would get under Becton a lot. And Becton would, when he got beat by him several times, Becton was always kind of shooting his hands high and you know, hitting him in the shoulder pads and not really making good contact. Well, take someone like Lawson, who's even shorter and more compact, who's also really powerful.
Leverage.
Yeah.
Great leverage.
Getting under him. So
yeah. Somebody asked before about the Jaguars' second pick. I just highlighted it, but I removed it. The Jaguars are not trading their pick for Becton. 1 and 2. If it's a second round pick you're talking about, then no. Either way, this is kind of the question I have. Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Icky are gone at 4. No trade partner. What's the move? Any candidates among Hamilton, Johnson, Neal, Green, Wilson? Kyle, I think we're gonna share the same opinion here. My next favorite player,
who's Johnson?
Jermaine Johnson.
Oh,
which and we'll talk about the Senior Bowl in a little bit. People don't understand it, in that scenario. Receivers and defensive linemen are built to win. A D end having a 2-way go on a tackle every single rep because there's no guard there, there's no center there. It's more conducive to D ends winning all the time. And you can just rush and rush and rush. You're not taking the fact of, okay, well, is this a screenplay? Is it a run play? Is it a quick throw? Is it a 7-step drop? Like they're just rushing against them. So they are so much more prone to win. And we're talking about Senior Bowl again, talk about that in a little bit with some of that stuff, which people, they watch and it's, oh my God, I saw this guy one time in the Senior Bowl win this one rep, and now he's so great. This guy that I trust on Twitter tweeted about this one guy, now he's so great. Like go and they put out a whole season's worth of tape. It's so much more important than the Senior Bowl to me. Like I get like guys like Jermaine Johnson rising, but let's not go crazy over Senior Bowl reps so they're built to win. Same thing with receivers. You know how hard it is for a corner to win in a one-on-one in the open field like that, you know, without any context to the down distance, all that stuff. Like it's absurdly hard. So, and can we stop with all the Senior Bowl? Like so the Senior Bowl is great. The one thing I want to understand that like people, because there's a lot of frauds out there. Trust me, Kyle and I talk about it plenty. Who I see, who I'm not going to ever reveal on the show. Maybe if we ever meet. But it's very easy to get into the Senior Bowl. It is very easy to get into Jets practice. That is all I'll say. So just watch the people who are talking all this big game about getting into the Senior Bowl, because if you just work, Kyle could request right now, go to the Senior Bowl. He's going to go to the Senior Bowl. If you work for any website, doesn't matter what it is, Jets Insider, Jets Press, TOJ, Play Like a Jet. If you request go to the Senior Bowl, you can go to the Senior Bowl pretty much. So let's just chill on, you know, blowing smoke up people's own asses for, because I see people talking shit like they went to the Senior Bowl like there's some big deal. I'm sorry, it just pisses me off, but
you feel good now, Joe? You got it out?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I've seen it all over Twitter like, oh my God, Senior Bowl is so like crazy. It's like, okay, there you go.
I could be your therapist, Joe.
No, it's just annoying. People are acting like they're something or not. That's all I'm concerned about. Carolina might actually offer her first and third for 35. So you're talking about what is that?
I'm not understanding it.
Where do they pick at? Like, what's their pick? Like 10, 11, 12?
Carolina?
Yeah.
No, they're picking. They're in the top 10, man. They're
like
couple.
7,
they're
right?
like 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah, no, they are.
We're 4. The Giants are 5. I think Carolina's 6. I want to say.
Oh, a first from there and a third for 35. No, I would pull that trigger, but they're not going to do that. I don't doubt that. Would you try to get Demario Davis for 2 years? Yes. What's 18 million? We can get. Is
Demario a legit free agent?
I think. I don't think he is, but apparently he's a cut candidate for the Saints because of a large contract, and the Saints are literally. I don't know how they're going to get under the cap for the year. Like they have to get rid of guys.
They always find a way to do it.
Not even just cut guys, but get rid of guys. Yeah, I don't know though.
I mean, they're definitely in rebuild. So normally, if they were still in Super Bowl contention, you would not want to get rid of Demario Davis because he's still a good player.
Oh, he's a really good player. What do you think about this, Kyle? From Braden, the super chat, which I appreciate. Thank you. New Zealand, I believe, unless I'm just an idiot. Why isn't anyone talking about Kenyon Green for us?
Who is Kenyon Green?
The guard. I forget the school. I forget the school he plays for. But he's like one of the next guards. The only reason I'm not talking about Kenyon Green at 10, unless you're talking about in the second round, I've seen Kenyon Green in some sites top 15. And I've seen guys value him at second round. So I think he's more of like a later mid to late first guy, maybe even a second round pick. So I don't think he's necessarily the most realistic option for 10. I don't know.
I mean, if he's a guard going in the first round, then he must be a hell of a player. I have to watch him. I'm certainly curious, and we can certainly use a guard. Thank you for the super chat, Braden.
Yeah, appreciate that. Moving down, and then we'll get into some of the topics. I'd do that. Green, yeah. Okay. Just say.
Listen, for a guard to go in the top 10, they have to be an absolute fucking stud.
Yeah. Allen Robinson, same age as Cooper, has played with a rookie QB and an injured QB. You could probably pay him less than Cooper and say a pick or two. What are your thoughts on Allen Robinson versus Cooper? Me, like, and I don't have to watch both, but I just think Cooper is a better fit than Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson feels a little bit to me like a vertical threat and a contested catch guy and he's a decent route runner from what I've seen, but Cooper is a good route runner, good yak guy. I feel like Allen Robinson would be like a better fit in Adam Gates' offense. And from what everybody says, he's definitely lost a step. So I want to see obviously that for myself as well.
And suppose he was dealing with injuries last year, right? So is he, could he ever get that step back? Yeah, I'd rather go with Cooper, and I agree that he's a better fit.
Thoughts on this question from that dude?
Well, I'll say this. I don't remember. So I heard some people saying that, well, Joe Douglas loved Mims and he loved Elijah Moore and ultimately ended up selecting them. I don't remember any reports pre-draft of Joe Douglas loving either one of those guys. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little skeptical that he's actually so in love with this guy, Drake London. And, there's always smoke screens and teams are going to
Yeah.
put that crap out there. So I'm not necessarily buying it.
It is smoke screen season. That's the only thing you need. Like Joe Douglas is probably sitting there putting this out to somebody he trusts to regurgitate it to the media and sitting there and hoping like, I hope Carl Loftus or Jermaine Johnson or Sauce Gardner fall to 10 and some idiot takes Drake London at 8. Like I'm not putting any value into anything from media. When do we hear stuff about the Jets in the media? Like very, very rarely anything comes to fruition that people rumor the Jets to like or want or do.
And if Joe Douglas truly did love Denzel Mims that much, as some are saying now, he wouldn't have traded back from 49 to 58.
Yeah.
I know he ultimately ended up getting Mims, but you could have taken him at 49 if you were really that scared. And Elijah Moore, like, yeah, okay, you drafted a really high pick to get him 34th overall. And he was really good as a rookie, but like, if you really loved him that much too, maybe you're thinking about moving back up late in the first round to take him too. So I'm just gonna. Anyway, go ahead.
I am right on par with Blake. That's I want one of those guys. That's just obviously assuming that Godwin's healthy and they are comfortable.
He's another one who's really young too.
He's like 25. So if you could eat the first couple of games of the year, maybe the first 4, 6, 8 games, and then deal with some of the bumps in the road in terms of him learning the offense and getting chemistry down with guys, you're going to have him for year 2, 3, 4. And he's a stud wide receiver. Like you're talking about like a legit number 1 in Godwin. So I would love Godwin. But is he going to want to take that 1-year deal, prove it deal, and then cash out at $21, $22 million over many years instead of what 18, 19 he might get? Like I don't really know what he's going to get because of the ACL. But yeah, I'm down with that, Blake. I'm 100% down. That's I want 3.
So here's my question for you.
Yeah.
ACLs are kind of run of the mill nowadays with how medical technology is. So if you could somehow get your medical doctors to get some kind of okay and like, hey, listen, his knee looks great, do you even have to give him the prove it deal? Will you give him big bucks? Forget the whole 1-year prove it deal. Just give him like the standard contract that he would deserve if he didn't have the injury.
They're smarter than I am, So yes.
Okay.
If they're
saying
medical,
Okay.
Have I ever given an opinion on Trevor Penning? No, I don't really. I know he lit it up he did really good at the Senior Bowl. I've also seen some conflicting things that he actually got blown up a little bit. Can he play guard? I'm not really looking to take a tackle in round 1 or 2. I want a depth tackle in free agency or a guy like 2nd, 3rd round to develop. But I don't want a guy who's going to be probably pick 10. And can he play guard? Maybe. And Jets gang asked before about the Green because he's the best guard in the draft. I think Icky's the best guard in the draft. I think he plays guard off the jump, and so maybe they could take Green if they trade down, or maybe he's good enough at 10. I haven't really watched, so I don't know. Thank you, Gang Green Goliath. Appreciate that. Let's talk about this. Let's hit this one while we're kind of on this topic. I'll delete it from my little queue of topics we have to hit, Kyle. Barrios $9 million. We should definitely do it, right? No. Why not?
I know. I saw your tweet the other day. You were like something like no, and then you like correction. That's a hell no or something.
No,
like
absolutely not.
Absolutely not,
dude. Okay, so this is. We could be quick on this. 1, this is him and his agents putting this out to have to hopefully jack up his price. 2, what you're paying for in Barrios is a good kick returner and punt returner. That's what he is. He's a very good kick returner and punt returner. But even with that being said, let's not overvalue his kick and punt returning because the touchdown he got this year versus the Jaguars was much more the blocking than it was him. Let's be completely honest. I can pull the play right now. It was wide open. He followed a hole. Great. But he's reliable in terms of letting the ball bounce over his head. He's reliable in terms of catching it. Yes, he's pretty shifty. But what are you going to value that out as a punt returner? Like if he was just a punt returner, Kyle, what are we paying him? $2.5, $3.5 million a year? Okay, great. Let's just say that. His slot ability, he is a backup slot receiver, a backup gadget, who ideally, if you bring in, let's say, Godwin, Cooper, whoever, or a top end of the draft first round pick or a receiver, you're talking about whoever that is. Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, hopefully a tight end or 2, and then Michael Carter, you're looking at like the 6th or 7th option on offense for $9 million a year, who, again, you look at his production. I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm just trying to be honest. How much of that was scheme versus Barrios doing something amazing? Like he had that great catch versus the Buccaneers from the going from the left to the right, like a slant over, whatever it was. He had a great catch. Other than that,
he had a nice touchdown against the Bengals too. Toe tap in the end zone.
Okay. But still, you're talking about a backup slot receiver. How much is that worth to you, Kyle? $1.5 million, $2 million?
So before I ask that or answer that question for you, when you think of a slot receiver and what you want from it, what trait or traits do you put at the top of the list?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Well, especially in this offense, route running and probably yak.
And reliability is going to find where the open spot is in the zone and catch the ball reliably, move the chains.
The only thing that I will give him on that in that aspect is his scramble drill. Like I like him getting open on scramble drills, but in terms of like sitting in the soft spot in the zone, that one play I brought up in the film review where he's running like it was a corner and out as a part of a sail or a flood concept. And he could have easily undercut the dropping defender, and he just takes it to where it has to go and cuts right into him. Where he could have easily altered his route, undercut it, still got to the spot he needed to go to. Like
which play and game are you talking about?
I can't remember exactly out of 1,000 plays. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I definitely brought up on the show. So he is an okay route runner.
But so our point, So suspect hands. He was dropping a lot of balls earlier in the season, right? Okay. Can we ever really think of when he was defeating press coverage? Right. I can't think of any good examples of him defeating press coverage. Yep. So, like, he's not like, I know he's shifty, like with the ball in his hands, like that a lot, but like, is this a dude that really, it's like a nuanced route runner that's creating a lot of separation? I don't think so. And to your point, which you said before, think about the touchdown that he had late in the season. Was it against the Bucks or God, there was a couple. He had the Dolphins, right? It's like these end around scheme things, and it's like, the passing touchdown that he had,
the Jaguars game where they literally make the edge either decide between cover Zach Wilson or take Barrios. He widened, he expanded with Zach Wilson. He runs in for a wide open touchdown. I'm not, and
Jeff Smith could have made that touchdown as well.
I was exactly going to say that. You put Jeff Smith, you put Crowder, you put even Keelan Cole in some of the roles he had this year. Are they going to not get a touchdown there? Or on some of the plays he got first downs? Like he's an okay gadget guy. Like so you're going to value his offensive production at $1.5 million, $2 million tops. I don't give a shit what anybody says. But people see hardworking, tough white guy. They think Amendola. They think Edelman. They think Wes Welker. They think Cole Beasley. But just because you're quick and you're short and you're white doesn't mean you're a good route runner, a good player.
Edelman never had a big contract from the Patriots. Never. He was always on like a bargain deal.
So
like Edelman when Edelman first hit free agency as a true unrestricted free agent, and granted, I know salaries have gone up a lot since then. He was getting like $4-ish million a year.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman, right? Wes Welker, like I know that I'm pretty sure the Patriots traded to get him from the Dolphins initially back in like the late-ish 2000s, 2007 or whatever it was, their Super Bowl year, and Bill Belichick never broke the bank for him. Like Bill Belichick actually franchise tagged him, right? Like because he didn't want to give him this super, super, super big deal or whatever. So I don't know, man. Like $9 million a year is crazy. I think
he's like a $3 million a year special teams player and $1.5 million, $2 million backup slot receiver. What does that put his value at? $5 million, $4.5 million. I would be willing to overspend at $6 million, maybe. But people are like, oh, just throw him $9 million. Who cares? When the Jets are trying to compete in a couple of years, $3 million could be like we get for the price of about $3 million this year. Which I know some of them are injured, but you got Tevin Coleman, who's a reliably decent backup running back. You had what was going to be Vinny Curry and like LaMarcus Joyner for the price of $3-4 million, and we're just willing to just throw that to Braxton Berrios because fuck it, we need a guy who is a decent, an okay backup slot gadget guy. Like ideally, how many reps does he really see in a season as the 6th, 7th option? Like we're not overpaying a guy $9 million. $9 million.
If you're paying him $9 million a year, he's playing major reps, and Berrios as a slot receiver that actually did damage as a slot receiver. That's just a huge question mark. It's a huge projection. right? Like you were paying him based on projection if you give him that much money, and I haven't seen enough to say like he's deserving of that, right? Like
Didn't Juju Smith, who obviously has produced a lot more in his career, get like $8.5 million last year for a 1-year deal? Like now we're gonna give Braxton Berrios that? Like what are we talking about?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it seem like I said he called him lazy. There's been some things not insinuating the most confidence in him in the media. I'm not a big like, oh, look at the press conference type stuff, but there's been some things that have been a little bit concerning, but I'm not saying he said that. Let's see. I love Becton. To be honest, he probably shouldn't be on Twitter as much. That hurts his case. Him quote tweeting people, and
I definitely agree with that, Verge.
It gets a little bit annoying.
There's a little bit of Jamal Adams there, and it just strikes me as a little bit like self-conscious.
What's up,
like
Dark?
So too obsessed with. Listen, if you think all these people are losers and stuff, and you can see like, oh, like, hey, I'm doing good for myself. What does this person know? I got to believe in myself. Like, listen, if you think all these people are losers and their opinions don't matter, then just ignore it. Right. So,
the below average is not terrible. Below terrible is GVR. Below average is below average. You can get away with a one below average starter. And again, Fant was below average to average his first year at the Jets at right tackle.
Rusty.
But yeah, Rusty, you're reaching today, bro. You're having a rough night right here.
There's a huge, especially when you're talking about offensive line play. Listen, so for many years in recent years with the Jets, they had legit bottom 5, and I'm saying closer to 32 offensive line, like just utterly disgustingly awful, right? But if you look at last year, you're talking average-ish. What is the difference between like last year and even the year before that versus what we had 30 years before that? There is a huge difference between below average versus bottom of the barrel.
Terrible is not Gardner's, is Sam Darnold's lines. Average to below average is what the Jets had it this year when they were healthy. And more towards the end of the year, like when they were healthy towards the end of the year, they were actually creating some holes in the run game. Like they were below average. Sam Darnold's team, he had 2 seconds. Like he had absolutely nothing. So there's a much bigger difference. We can't live in such a black and white world where it's like a player's great or he's terrible. There's players who are superstars. There's guys who are great. There's guys who are very good. There's guys who are good. There's guys who are average, below average, terrible, really terrible, atrocious. Like there's different levels of players.
And here's what I'm saying too. Like I do think there's a lot. Like I do think there's a lot to be said just because we've also seen Fant at left tackle and right tackle in Seattle, and he was better as a left in Seattle. Fant will probably never be as good on the right side as he is on the left. But also after the season he put out last year, I'm not convinced that he couldn't be above average as a right tackle. Like, yeah, he was below average as a right tackle 2 years ago.
Dude, but the right tackle is the run blocking tackle. Don't you know that, Kyle?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said I appreciate it from before. I skipped over. They said they love the show because we disagree sometimes. It's gonna happen. No. Gardner is the guy. Yeah, I said no to this. I would not be happy anymore. Not be happy. Gardner is the guy. If they take him at 10, we'll talk about him in a little bit. I'll be cool with that. Gardner is legit, not just because he's like the corner now, like because he's number one guy. People said, oh, drafting him at 10 is crazy, or drafting him at 4 is crazy. People thought Stingley was a lock as a top 3 pick, a couple months ago on the show. And now you have guys who, again, I'm not just going to keep like always rely on this guy's name, but Daniel Jeremiah has a pretty good pulse on the NFL. And I think he has him as like his 4th or 5th player right now. There's a reason. Like he's a legit corner. Just did a review a couple days ago of him. He's legit. He deserves to be where he's being talked about. So yeah.
And he showed that he's legit going against the top competition in college football.
Yeah. You don't take a safety at 4. Yeah. So it's not the fact you don't take a safety at 4. If you use generational at any position minus running back, for me, you could take at 4, but Hamilton is not nearly generational. He's just not. Swolsey, not sure.
He has the talent to be, but it's kind of like projection, and there's a lot of projection. There's a lot left to be desired there, and you do factor in positional value there too. So when you combine all those things together, do you really want to take it at 4? And I don't, and you don't.
Not sure if this is just a clickbaity title to be clickbaity, but this idea is absurd on its face. A guy who played very well as a rookie and hurt. supposedly it's literally because of rumors and to be clickbaity. Like that's you need headlines that are clickbaity. So you 100% read through it, so I appreciate that. We already discussed it. We're not trading Becton. Those top tier guys this year overrated. I agree with that, Rusty, but I'm not saying they're terrible. But yeah, is Thibodeau, Nick Bosa, is Thibodeau, Chase Young, is Thibodeau, Myles Garrett, is Hutchinson? No. Is Neal one of the, is he Wills? No. Is Icky one of those guys? No. But I'm not just going to trade down to trade down. Like I still want one of those guys. I'm not saying they're great. They are overrated this year, Rusty, but they're still not terrible. $10 every 2 weeks to support you guys for great content. The least I can do. Jan, thank you, sir.
You're the man.
$10 every 2 weeks. Hey, that's we're making it, Kyle. James. Okay, what's up, James? Just X Factor writer. You just posted something about him. So you guys should go check that out if you guys want to go. I'm not sure if the whole thing is free, James. But if some of it is, I'm sure. Go watch what James wrote down. Sauce is, dude, the fluidity he has, the speed he has, the way he flips and turns and runs, the patience he has in press. He has to clean some things in press.
I really love that one play that you showed when so they motioned the one guy and
the speed turn.
Yeah, the speed turn from the slot, like that was like the timing with that. Like so this dude, I think he just has like a really good understanding of things too. And also another thing you pointed out too, like he's got that. Dude, corner is one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL. Like you have to be super confident in yourself. So he does have a little bit of that Richard Sherman talking up, running his mouth a little bit, which is, the Jets could use some of that after getting, blown out so many times last year. So
yeah, no, he's legit. And again, we'll talk about him maybe in a little bit some more. But
and you want to talk about we really liked.
I'm just trying to work through the chat for a minute.
Okay,
because I'm still behind.
Sorry.
Spin Max ABI. I showed that on Wednesday stream. I literally showed probably 10 plays of him, which Kyle, you probably didn't watch it, but I thought I was I'm new to StreamYard and I thought I was showing plays and I was just talking about them like, holy shit, look at that. And nobody could see it. And I was just doing it by myself. So yeah, that was good.
That's fine.
We can get Sauce at 10. I am not so confident in that, to be completely honest. I'm actually not very confident in that.
I don't think so. I haven't heard one person say that this is a good draft class. Like pretty much everyone is saying this is not such a great draft class. And when you look at a player like that at a valuable position like that, can't see him last until 10.
I would say no to this, Chris, because I think the difference between 20, 22 mil and 16 mil is not going to be the biggest difference for the Cowboys who are not in a good cap situation. So it's not a big enough minus for them to take that. Like they need more than just a couple $1 million. I would say that too, based on what I know right now, Tom Kelly, but I don't really 100% know yet. Green. Okay, I'm trying to move down. Do you think Linderbaum? I just started Linderbaum today. I watched like a half of him, but I really like Linderbaum. That is for sure. I want Jermaine Johnson. Where? At 10. Me personally, I like Sauce more. And the thing is like positional value. Yes, I'd rather take a D end versus a cornerback in a vacuum. But I think Sauce is so much of a better player than Jermaine Johnson, and I'm not taking Jermaine Johnson over Sauce Gardner.
But by the way, so to throw some shade at somebody who we were talking about earlier, how badly did Jermaine Johnson beat Evan Neal this past season?
I don't know if I watched that game specifically. Did I?
No, you did. You did.
I forget. I already did like 3 other reviews other than that. How bad did he beat him? You tell me.
Multiple plays, man.
Okay.
It was. He definitely got the best of him for sure.
Mm-hmm. 6. This is like $6.5 million. Yeah, that's still too much for me. I'm not paying $6.5 million. 5, 6 max. I'm 6.5 is even too much. 7 max. No, I'm not doing it. Okay, we're back at this. I'm trying to get all the way up. I'm like at 7 o'clock. So I appreciate you guys blowing up the chat because it gives us a ton of stuff to talk about. To me, also said Cameron Thurman was a solid death player, so I wouldn't.
Jesus Christ,
he's one of the worst tackles I've ever seen in my life. Barrios isn't white. What? Are you sure? Does he have some mix? But he's white. I don't know.
What does that matter anyway?
Yes, yeah, I don't. Because I say people say he's white, so they compare him to Amendola and all this stuff. So he's not white. So I guess people know that. So they're not really comparing him to Amendola and stuff. Yeah, that's not really exactly what we're kind of get to. And Jackson, that he's not white.
Wait, what's public knowledge?
I guess that he's not white. I don't know what's going on with the white stuff. His skin color is Caucasian. He is white. He might be a mix, but he's white.
Oh.
So You know, I don't look into people's like ethnicities and say, oh, well, he's not necessarily Caucasian. You know, like that's not what we're meant to do. What's up, Christian? Jamal Adams picture. That is concerning though.
He must have been one of the people that got an autograph after practice.
I think he said, GVR is GVR is god awful. He's not well. He's not in. Don't even put average in that name. I coming out of Carolina, I didn't hate him, but recently, how important of a year is next? It's not. I don't say it's make or break, but it's a massive year. Obviously, you hope that he continues on his progression from what he did at the end of the season. You know, you don't want him to regress. You definitely want him to progress. And if he doesn't, then you go into year 3, and that's a make or break year. But Garrett Wilson, route running yak. If it wins the vote, I'm gonna put up to a vote, Donald, and I appreciate the super chat. But I have a grouping of a couple of guys that I want to do, and Wilson, Burks, London are a group of them. Dean, Lloyd are one of them. Ojaba, Hutchinson are one of them. So I'll see if he wins. I'm gonna put on a vote here and maybe on Twitter, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Donald.
You don't think you guard at 4 either? Again, the positional value thing. If Quentin Nelson was coming out of this draft, would you take Quentin Nelson at 4? Yes.
Oh, God.
People would say the same thing for tight end.
Dude, your quote in your review was, or you said it, or maybe you said it to me one-on-one, was I would literally drive to the draft to turn in the draft card for Quentin Nelson.
Dude, and like that's the thing too. Like, would we be saying the same thing about Pitts? You don't take a tight end at 4. If Pitts was in this draft, I would drive to the draft to take Pitts at 4. Like,
isn't it funny, like how a lot of people think he didn't have a great season, but he still had 1,000 yards as a rookie tight end?
Yeah, dude. Like, what are we talking about? And tight ends is one of the hardest positions to, obviously, quarterback, tight end. Like, there's a lot of positions that are tough, but like you have to learn how to be a receiver and an offensive lineman in the same year. Like, there's a reason guys get really slow or adjusting to that. A little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Gardner much more than Hamilton. If it like,
I think he says he wants one of them at 4 and in 10. No, that's
a little bit too much. But I'm on it for the Gardner thing. Okay, I'm still Ahmad can't tackle based on what? He has tackling. He goes too high when he tackles, but he's definitely
and sometimes he doesn't bring his feet. And you pointed out one example in your video where he actually laid the running back out, but he was totally flat-footed. Oh, and you're like in the NFL, you know, he could probably get trucked easily here.
With corners, you can learn how to tackle for the most part, and
he's willing.
And that's the more important part. Are you willing? And he's very willing, and he sets a good edge. Like he plays outside in. Like he definitely takes good angles to it. He knows how to be that force player. Does he go high sometimes? Will he get trucked in the NFL sometimes? Yes, but can't tackle. That's not the case. Yeah, I agree, Afram. Obviously, unless it's him and Hutchinson, then they may have a conversation. But if he falls at 4, you're going to take him. Do you agree with that, Kyle, or no?
Yeah, you know, pretty much everybody respects Daniel Jeremiah, and I saw a clip of him today where he was also putting into question like his effort and things like that, and how he also saw on tape like how the effort would lack a little bit. And you know, sometimes if there's a lot of smoke, there tends to be a fire, and especially like you hear a lot of these rumors about people, especially later on in the draft when somebody wants to crash somebody's draft stock. But to hear it this early on, you have to wonder if there is some truth to it. But he is a really talented player. I don't think he's quite what people hyped him up to be in terms of, you know, comparing him to Von Kearse and, you know, maybe some other really explosive dudes like Von Miller. He's not that, but he's definitely one of the most talented players in the draft, and it's at an extremely valuable position, which is a big need for the Jets. So he has to be serious consideration at 4 if you're the Jets and he's there.
He is like a 9 out of 10 in talent. Like he's not he's not Myles Garrett, he's not one of those guys. Like are there some effort plays where I want to see him make it? Yes. Like there is some lack of effort there, and it showed up in the 3 or 4 games I watched. 100%. When he's engaged, sometimes he gives up. That's a little bit concerning to me. Again, he's not Garrett. He's not one of those guys. He's powerful. I think he has good explosion. He has good bend. And I agree with, I think Daniel Jeremiah said that his ankle flexion is a little bit sketchy, and sometimes it is. And that basically, okay, ankle's going this way because you're bending, foot, you want your foot to be planted so you could continue to gain ground. And there are times where he slips a little bit because his ankle's not as flexible as you necessarily want it to be. It's a big part of turning the corner. So there's a difference between bend and being able to bend and disassociate your upper body from your lower body. And there's a difference between ankle flexion. And there's some problems with ankle flexion that I see in him at times because he's always like leaping or jumping to make sacks and not able to completely corner. Again, different between flexibility and bend. So I see some of the ankle flexion stuff that he's talking about.
And he's not big enough to be winning with inside moves all the time either, or bullying people back into the quarterback, all like Carl Lawson with his long arm. That's not his style either. So there are definitely legit question marks with him. But are you gonna? And would I take him over Evan Neal? Absolutely.
What do you think about this one from Spin Max Dave? Who I don't know if I've ever seen.
Question outside of QB: what is the hardest position to learn? Probably corner. What would you say?
I don't know the difference between like learn and
play.
Like play.
There's a difference.
Adjust to. Learn.
I also said the reason why I said corner is because not only is it extremely hard to play, but also reading route combinations on the fly isn't very easy to do.
I think tight ends up there too because of learning how to block offensive linemen, learning route combinations, learning, okay, do I break this route off at 5 or 7 depending on the pressure? Do I sit it down here? Do I not sit it down here? Tight end, corner. I think safety is another one. Like a lot of stuff's going on. Like even though you're in the back, like reading route combinations,
and if you fuck up as a safety,
I would say safety, tight end, corner, maybe. Offensive lineman, it's hard. Like you have to learn blocking schemes. Like you might get manhandled. Like that's one of the ones that's harder to be great at initially. But to learn, I wouldn't say necessarily.
Yeah, I kind of agree with. And I'm someone who not at an extremely high level or anything like that. Played in the off, and if you just think about it from the perspective of you're an offensive line, you're not really thinking about the big picture. You're thinking about the guy who's right in front of you. And when you can think about the guy who's right in front of you, you don't have to think about as much. But when you're playing corner or safety, like literally you're looking at so much different stuff, right? Your eyes have to scan in so many different directions. So naturally you have to think more. So that's why I think that those back end positions are probably a little harder to learn.
I really like this one from Matthias, I'm going to say.
I think it's probably Matthias.
He's in here a lot, but I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Just tell me how to say it if you can. But I think Gardner's a better cornerback than these two pass rushers are at their position right now. I would agree with you. And I haven't watched Hutchinson yet, but in terms of Gardner at corner versus Thibodeau at defensive end, Gardner's better than Thibodeau. But obviously they're both there at 4. I'm taking Thibodeau because he's a DN and he has a really high upside. But I would agree with that.
Yeah, it seems like Gardner has a really high floor and a pretty high ceiling too.
Yeah,
he just strikes me as a really safe pick. And honestly, if you're Joe Douglas, and it's a huge position of need, it's a hugely valuable position. If you're not so in love with some of these other guys, you really should consider it at 4. It shouldn't be out of the question. Oh, he's a cornerback, and okay, so Patrick Peterson was probably, I guess, him and Ramsey are like the highest cornerback prospects to come out in like the last 10 or so years. Would you agree with that?
Him and what's the guy? Blanking on his name, the guy from the Lions a couple of 2 years ago.
Oh,
Okudah.
Jeff Okudah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still say probably from a talent perspective, though, those other two guys are probably higher, right?
I feel like Okudah was more like because he was like he had talent, but he was also like super clean. People said, but I don't really watch
super
Okudah
clean. And Ohio State is DBU, so I think there's also something to that. Sure. But I'm just saying, like, I forgot my train of thought. Actually, if it comes back to me, I'll say it later.
It seems like your light just turned off. What's going on there? Lose
Well,
power?
no, I think my wife turned it off.
All right. Afram, 5 million max, not to stretch. I would there it is. I would agree with that. I would stretch to maybe 5.5, 6, but I think his real value is like 4, 4.5. Like, and people are talking about going to 9. It's crazy. Nick, appreciate that. Barrios is an American from Cuban ancestry. Okay, but again, his skin color is peach. He's Caucasian to me. Like I don't know. I guess we're joking about that. I hope. Christian, change that, please. Your picture. Appreciate the comments, but he said he's a bum for real though. You see K2's interview about him not loving football. Where was this?
It's probably that interview that we brought up 2 weeks ago. where they were talking about why he chose to go to Oregon versus Alabama. I'm
Dark.
assuming
I wasn't. I was comparing. I was saying that other people think he's Amendola. He's this because he's white. Because other people see the white skin color that he has. Again, he could be Cuban and ancestry, but he still looks like he's a white dude.
All right. To be clear, Joe Blewett was not saying, oh, like he was not making a racial comment, like, oh, this racial group is better at this thing and that. Like that wasn't what he was saying. He was just saying sometimes people have these simplistic ways of looking at things, like, oh, he's short and he has this lighter skin complexion. Therefore, he's Wes Welker. People do think like that.
Oh, 100%. And they see what he looks like, and they say, "Oh, well, he was an unheralded guy. He was a UDFA. He got cut by the Pats. He came to the Jets. He's a hard worker. He's Wayne Corbett now. Just because of like that, like doesn't mean he's Wayne Corbett. Then why isn't every other UDFA who tries hard Wayne Corbett? Is Jeremiah blowing smoke about Dibs so he drops a 4 for his buddy JD? I hope so, but I don't think so.
Jeremiah has a lot of buddies throughout the league.
Yeah, I don't think
yes, Joe Douglas is one of them. I don't think Jeremiah would do something like that, especially, but who the hell knows?
Moving on. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down past some stuff. I'm sorry if I'm where's the block user? Let's do that because I don't know if somebody's sharing weird links in here. Somebody, let's see. Am I crazy? You want to overpay for DK trade? There are so many people shilling for Cooper and Ridley who are out on DK, who must be the best athlete in the NFL. The only thing with DK is like you're gonna have to pay him what 25 million, 23, 24, 25 million dollars a year, and you have to trade probably number 10 for him. So that's why it's a lot of capital to put into him.
That is true.
Is your light situation bothering you, Kyle? Because I don't know what's going on right now, and you're just.
Oh my! What happened? Did something happen to my light again?
It's like you're fading in and out. I don't know.
Oh, it's probably because I moved and like the camera has to adjust to where I am.
Okay.
It seems like it's bothering you more than it's bothering me.
Joe Pekulik. Hey guys, good show. If we look at it and get Thibodeau, double dip at DN and get Ignart to be a backup. Like obviously if he's like by far the best player on the board and there's nobody even close to him, sure, but they need so many other things to be drafted to double up on DNs in the first 2 picks. I can't see that.
Yeah. It's also just a dumb draft strategy just to think like, ooh, let's double up so we can be really strong here. Like take, for example, the New York Giants back when they were actually, winning games and in playoff contention every year and winning Super Bowls. They had a very strong defensive line and it seemed like they were drafting a defensive end every other year. And I remember when they drafted JPP, childhood friend of mine, big Giants fans, like another defensive end, like what the hell type of thing. And, JPP ended up being the single biggest reason they won that Super Bowl in 2011. But anyway, it's a dumb draft strategy to say, oh, we want to really get strong at this one position, so we're going to focus on this position.
If you didn't have Carl Lawson,
if you're trying to force a position group or something like that, you're going to get yourself into trouble.
If you didn't have Carl Lawson, sure, but he's going to be a backup player. I didn't see the Jets gang keeps referring to the interview where KT was asked about not liking football. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to really comment on it. I did just see the thing that he said he doesn't necessarily want to play in LA because they have high state taxes or something like that. So if he doesn't want to play in LA, he's not going to want to play in New York. So you look into that. Kevin Jackson.
But also he doesn't have a choice. And is he gonna cry and not play football hard because he's paying a higher tax rate? I mean,
yeah, Kevin, I'm usually on par with you with some of your stuff, but $6 million with incentives, so he's gonna get $8 million in All Pro. Wasn't he an All Pro this year? So you're gonna pay him. He was not worth $8 million for what he did for the Jets this year, and next year he's not going to be playing a lot if you get the offensive talent you want. So you're gonna pay him $8 million because he's good on special teams, with very little offensive value. It's just he's not going to be there. Can't comment on it yet because I haven't watched those guys. I think McBride might be a little bit overhyped by some people at this point, but I'll see. And the NY Bully, I would suggest everyone check out your Thibodeau interview with Michael Smith. The kid is passionate, intelligent, and played hurt, which would have affected him. Good reference point. Go watch it. Can you just look up Thibodeau interview with Michael Smith and see? And on YouTube, I'm assuming you can.
I will listen to it. Thank you, New York Bully. Really appreciate that.
Joe Blewett, you better watch it. I don't know what that's about. Oh, somebody said, I know J. Cole's in here. He always saying weird stuff like that. But somebody referenced that they knew me the last stream. They said check out the Twin Lights ride, which I was like literally like, yo, oh, wrong thing. Literally Twin Lights ride. I worked the Twin Lights ride. So did he meet me at the Twin Lights ride? He knows me or something. That's just
What is the Twin Lights ride?
like Bike New York. It's like I think it's for cancer, but it's like a bike. It's like a big bike ride event that my town is a part of.
Oh,
so
yeah. Why be so cryptic about it? Just be upfront. How do you know, Joey? Is it from that? Yeah.
6 is the possible. Okay, it's still a little high for me, Kevin. If they did that, could I understand it? Sure. I still wouldn't be overly comfortable with it. I wouldn't go crazy. Kyle and Joe, you should tweet your top 10 mock draft. Yeah, once we learn a little bit more about these guys. Name Florida. I'm not the biggest draft guy in the world. I'll watch guys. I've already watched about 10 guys in the top 10 who I'll do full blown reviews on. But I gotta get his name. I'm pretty much gonna regurgitate what I've heard from other people. So I'm not really necessarily the person to ask for that. So not yet. Kyle, let's talk about the draft a little bit, and I just mentioned it, and we'll get into some of the reviews and some of our opinions on the reviews that you've watched that I've done, and then will be released to people in the near future. What is your absolute worst case scenario for 4 and 10? That's obviously in the realm of possibility. We're not going to say, okay, you take Trey McBride at 4 and some other guy at 10 who's a 7th round pick. Like realistic possibilities.
For me, I guess the worst would probably, I don't want to say taking Aquanu, because if he turns into a really good guard, which I could see based on his mentality and his traits, that's going to be really valuable for our offense and to help Zach out. Maybe either taking Neal or Hamilton at 4, especially Neal. I would hate that. That's probably the worst possible. Like Hamilton,
the way you said that, I don't know if like anybody else like saw that when you're doing it. Your literally arms are crossed. And you're like, especially if we took Neal. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, man. Because all the implications that has. Yeah, we've already talked about it at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. Hamilton, I think Hamilton would be a good player, probably, but it's still a risk for me. And taking a safety that high, not so thrilled about it. 10, I mean, I guess like if you couldn't trade out of 10, that would be bad. But let's say that Sauce is gone. All the defensive ends you like are gone. Aquanu is obviously gone. I mean, Linderbaum's gone. What are you going to do at 10 there? And you can't trade back? You're going to have to draft a receiver.
If all those guys are gone, what did Thibodeau fall? Like that's a lot of guys.
They could all be gone by 10. Think about it. Especially if there's no quarterbacks that go in the top 10. They could all be gone.
Realistically, mine, because to be honest, like, yeah, I don't want Hamilton at 4, but I can convince myself much more of Hamilton at 4 than Neal at 4. I would be like literally like worst case that I could see being in the realm of possibility would be Neal 4 and like Drake London at 10. I would lose my mind.
Oh,
I would lose my mind. Neal and Drake London. Like, again, one of the top 3 receivers, probably the worst of the top 3. A guy in Drake London who seems like a vertical threat, Mike Williams type guy, which is not a great fit for this offense, which I severely doubt the Jets would draft him at 10. And then Neal, then you're going to get rid of one of Becton or Fant most likely. And Neal to me is being hyped up as like the number 1 tackle, but he's not worth the 4th pick like at all.
And the thing is, like, I don't think you can't like, okay. So with certain players like Becton, one of his biggest flaws is very correctable. Hand placement in terms of pass pro, you can correct that. All right. You can't teach Neal to be a mauler. You can't teach him to have that type of mentality in the run game that someone like Aquanu has. So, yeah, he's big as hell. Yeah, he went to Alabama, but how high is the ceiling really?
Yeah, just because you're big,
not that you have to answer. It could be like, it's just a rhetorical
question. Unless he completely changes his mentality. Like the guy is soft. He just is. Like that one play that I put up of him comboing a guy, and he literally doesn't move the defensive end, and the defensive end turns his attention to Neal, where Neal has a whole 2 seconds on him to be driving him and get hand placement, and then he sheds Neal and almost gets in on a tackle. I'm like, what are you doing, Neal? Like he's just. I don't
sometimes like when they run like outside mid zone opposite way, and he has to cut off a defender. Sometimes he's like he's really high and he's lackadaisical, and he lets defenders cross his face and get in on the tackle.
This is actually a really good point, to be completely honest.
The NFL should adjust the salary cap upwards for states with high state income tax. Florida, Texas, Nevada have no state income tax and have advantage in signing free agents. I think that is a great point.
It's a good dude. Like what's the difference between $20 million from the Jets and $20 million from the Cowboys? Like you're talking, how much they get taxed. I don't know how much the tax percent is, but let's just say it's even $2 million, or let's say even $1 million. What's the difference between 20 and $19 million? $1 million. So
and especially, listen, the reason you have the salary cap in the first place is to promote parity in the league. So if the goal is to try to promote parity, and part of the reason the NFL draft is, so the NFL draft is different from the NBA draft. The NBA draft is like a lottery. NFL draft, no, we're going to give the worst team the first pick. Okay. That promotes parity. Like the worst team, in theory, they should not be the worst team the following year because they got their shot at the guy. Okay. So if it's all about promoting parity, then yeah, that would be a good idea, I think.
I think it's a really good idea. I never even thought about that. I know he flashed the Senior Bowl, but I'd have to watch more. I know he's like a second or third round guy, but I'm not going to tell you just based on Senior Bowl reps that he's great or not. Yes, agree with that. J. Cole, kind of respect you. You're growing on me. I guess he didn't like me at first. I don't know. J. Cole, I've seen you in here before though, so I guess you kind of like hate watch us. I don't know.
There is a bit of arrogance to you, Blewett, but it's not unwarranted.
Whatever.
Listen, you kind of deserve to be a little cocky, everybody loves George Fant now, but nobody loved George Fant at signing except you.
And how do I even say that? The thing about that is I didn't just randomly just throw that up out there. Oh, I like George Fant and then not show a 2-3 hour review.
You're like, well, let's watch the film before I make a judgment.
And then watch the film, show you what I see in the film, play out the strengths and weaknesses of that film, show you the strengths and weaknesses in that film, and then give you my opinion on him, which nobody does, at least in Jets land. There's obviously just Jet X guys who do it, but other than that, why can't we take a guard at 4? But can't take Hamilton if Hamilton was generation. Oh, I guess you're talking about.
You're talking about positional value. So typically, guard is also one of those positions that's not drafted that high as a safety. But I would say this though. I would say that I think a good guard is more valuable than a good safety. And you're also talking about protecting a young quarterback.
That's the thing. In a vacuum, is safety more valuable than guard? We can have a conversation. When you have a rookie quarterback, is guard more valuable than safety? Undoubtedly.
And I would also say this. I think there are more good safeties in the league than good guards.
Mm-hmm. Stingley at 4. Yeah. Stingley at 10, I wouldn't be happy with. Hamilton in London.
But you wouldn't be happy with Stingley at 10?
Dude, not with the injury problems. And from what I hear about the guy, again, I'll watch for myself. Preface it by saying that because my opinion on Hamilton dramatically changed. So did it on Neil. No, not really. I actually watched Neil highlights. I was like, I don't see the highlights. Like they're kind of trash highlights. What was it? Yeah, Stingley. From what I hear from people I trust relatively, is he was hyped up because of a big freshman year. His 2 years to follow were not as good, and he's a boomer, a bust guy like Trayvon Diggs is, where like he's going to either get a pick or he's going to let up a touchdown or a big play. And that on top of the fact that he's had injury problems, I don't want Hamilton or
here's
Stingley.
Okay, so I'm telling you. Okay, so you always do these Twitter polls, and whenever I see them, I vote on them. I do. All right. I think my vote should count as a little bit extra. Like let's call me like a super delegate or something like that. I think your next film review that you should do should be Stingley. That's my opinion.
It's going to be in the voting, but I also have McDuffie in there. Some people talk about who's the other corner, the other top guy. I forget his name, but I have a couple of corners who I'm going to throw in the votes. So, any true disagree with you? Okay, I don't know. Thank you, TKO Steve. First time I've seen a super chat from you, so I definitely appreciate that. And relatively new to the chat because I remember that picture. Blewett, make up your mind. Goatee, no hair, goatee. So I'm not allowed to have facial hair minus October through January. So I always have to be shaven. The only time you're going to see me a little bit is if I'm off for a couple of days and my hair grows quick. So I cut it like every 3 weeks, but it grows back quick.
By the way, Carl Loftus, I think he's going to be a solid player. He's really good with taking the proper angles. Like
that. I was going to talk about this when I want to get to the prospects a little bit more to end it out. But right now, Kyle, you're sitting at 10. Let's just say Aquanu is the pick at 4. Jermaine Johnson, Carl Loftus are sitting there. Who are you taking? And then,
Well,
again, people,
I have to watch Jermaine Johnson. So I mean,
okay.
I did watch him when he played Evan Neal, and he certainly kind of impressed me a little bit. But I want to watch him a little bit more. What was the other person? You said 3 names, didn't you? Right?
No, just Jermaine Johnson. So
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure yet.
the thing that I'm going to say with this, guys, is be a little bit careful with the Senior Bowl hype because everybody gets hyped up in a year, and he deserves the hype. He's a first-round pick. Is he a slam dunk lock at 10? I watched him. He's not an all-star caliber athlete. He's really good in the run game. His pass rushing needs a lot of work. He has a decent amount of moves. He doesn't have a great plan all the time. His angles in terms of softening his edge are terrible. He pretty much squares up a guy and just gives him a bunch of like crossover steps and just hope the guy really fucks up. Or like the guy will overset, he doesn't take the inside ever. So he's not a great pass rusher. He has some tools.
He did have a nice spin move and ice pick against Neal.
Okay, yeah.
But it's
his spin move, he also relies on his spin move sometimes too much where like a guy will overset and he'll be inside and then try to throw an outside spin move and the guy's just there to catch him. So he needs a lot of refinement, and he's not some super bendy, twitched up Brian Burns type prospect.
And he's old.
He could be a little bit tight at the top of his cornering, at the top of the arc to get to the quarterback. So let's not be prisoners of the moment with the Jermaine Johnson stuff. To me personally, and I'm going to recap both of them and I'll show you both of them. I like the physical upside of Jermaine Johnson more than Karlaftis, but Karlaftis right now is easily the better player than Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson's more for ceiling pick. Karlaftis, some of his film, and there's again recency bias. So because Karlaftis was that edge 3, this is how I think, and I think that people think just in general without maybe even knowing it. Because he was edge 3, and now Jermaine Johnson's rising, people are now pushing Karlaftis down. Karlaftis' technique sometimes is money, like really, really good. And he's super powerful and he's super smart. So let's not just push Karlaftis down. And I think people are pushing him down because they're seeing some of these like twitched up guys. Jermaine Johnson's definitely a better athlete. But just because Karlaftis doesn't like have that bend.
And dude, you could put Karlaftis at 3 techniques sometimes too. Not to say that you'd want to do that a lot, but you could.
I don't get the Karlaftis. Like I see people on Twitter all the time like shitting on Karlaftis now. Like Karlaftis, just because he's not bendy doesn't mean he's not a good player. Like there's been players, who've had short arms, who aren't necessarily the bendiest guy. Like, Melvin Ingram was short arms, but bendy. He's
going to be a guy who gets a lot of pressures year in, year out. He's going to be really solid in the run game. He's going to give you effort on every play. You're not going to have. I doubt you'll ever
wasn't the most twitched up, bendy guy. Ryan Kerrigan was a really good player for a really long time. Not the most bendy, twitched up guy. Like, let's not push him down because right now, if I had to pick between those 2 guys, I'm taking Karlaftis at 10 over Jermaine Johnson. I'm trying not to be prisoner in the moment here. I watched both of them. I didn't do the Jermaine Johnson review yet, but there are a lot of plays where I watch them and like you're going to see his film. I think it's versus Miami, and people are going to hype up that game. Dude, the tackle will get into his kick slide, Kyle, and when he goes to punch Karlaftis, he's literally like this, or Jermaine Johnson. He literally goes like this, and he beats him. I'm like, dude, that's not replicatable in the NFL unless you're playing Connor McDermott. So like, it's
By the way, you use that same line for one of your other film reviews.
Oh, maybe I'm just going through that.
It just shows how much you hate that man.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Confidence is not.
Confidence and cockiness, they're not necessarily the same thing.
I just try to and it comes off as cockiness sometimes because I hate people that put out opinions when they have no idea what they're talking about, and they'll stand behind that opinion until the day they die. I love this player. I want him at 10, and their entire opinion is based on a 5-minute YouTube highlight and opinions they've heard from other people who, if you really start to dive into some people's opinions and you start to especially if you dive into the film, you're going to notice that a lot of the people, I don't care if they have 50,000 followers, 200,000 followers, some of them are jackasses. They are. They don't know what they're talking about. And it annoys me to see that stuff. It just does. So, and I call it out sometimes. It makes me seem like a dickhead, and I apologize for that sometimes. But it just is what it is. It annoys the shit out of me sometimes. So then I get a little bit passionate about it. So I apologize for that if it offends you. But I appreciate some people. Thank you, Grana. Thank you, Swolzy, my guys or ladies. I don't know necessarily unless whatever. But Kyle, let's move through the chat a little bit.
Okay.
You agreed to me, but I not hated you. You were different than Asman, Jet Central, and Jake. Who is Jake? Yeah, I think I'm definitely different, but that's for sure. Hamilton is overrated. Yes, if he is nasty at 4, unless Dib falls to us. Sure. TJ
Do you want?
Decker.
I'm going to say this again, Jets fans. Do you really want to draft a guy who should be playing guard at 4, but he hasn't played guard? Not to say that he can't be.
He has played guard.
When? Okay, when?
He had like 300 reps
that.
at left guard. I don't know exactly when that was. He had reps at left guard at NC State. It was left though, so he had to move to the right guard. And with that being said, it's not like this is a perfect draft. If there's a draft where there's a bunch of stud players in the draft, sure, Icky wouldn't be necessarily the best option at 4. But with who's there, you're talking about Sauce Gardner and who, you know, like I don't like anybody else at 4 other than those 3 guys really. And you can convince me of Sauce. Other than that, I would be pissed. TJ Decker, NJ doesn't have cheap taxes either. They're based out of New York though, so they're going to pay New York taxes. But yeah, New Jersey sucks with taxes too. They might even be worse than New York. So let's see.
How do they? This might be a question you don't have the answer to. How do they do that when their training facility and the stadium is in New Jersey? I know they call them the New York Jets for obvious reasons. It's not far from New York City. New York
out of New York.
Is it though?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like they're like, you know, I don't really know the technicalities of it, but if Linderbaum falls to 10, does he start at center, goes to guard, or do you cut McGovern and draft a guard later around? I think if you draft Linderbaum,
I'm not cutting McGovern.
You're moving McGovern to guard. But with that being said, I just started Linderbaum, and let's say best case scenario happens at 4, and Thibodeau, Hutchinson falls, whatever. You take him. Linderbaum sitting at 10. I don't hesitate to obviously really consider him, but I really, really like Linderbaum. So I would be comfortable with him at 10. Also wish I didn't have to pay to watch your film breakdowns. It takes time, and there are people willing to do it. So that's how the site works. You know, it is what it is. It used to be free.
Let's hold on. Let me stop. Michael, think about this for a moment. Like, you really want to watch the film breakdowns clearly. Who else is putting out those extensive film reviews of this many players that consistently? Is $50 for the year really that much? Could get a free month if you don't like it. I don't know.
It's not even a cup of coffee a week, you know? And again, it takes the thing with, again, maybe it might come out as cockiness again. It's a lot different to just do a live stream for 3 hours with not much research behind it. I could do that very, very easily, but I'm doing this stuff behind the scenes 10, 15, 20 hours some weeks behind the scenes. So yeah, you know, do I feel that some people like getting paid to do it? Yeah, you know, it is what it is. I was approached by Jets X Factor. Now I'm a part owner of it.
That gives a reason, thing, like there's no harm in it. Takes hours and hours and
hours and hours. Yeah, it's not. I don't just come on and talk.
Gives you more incentive to put more behind it and make the product better.
Yeah, 100%, Sergeant Mike. Yeah, a little bit. You know, it was rough at first. Now people are like, "You blew it." I'm like, dude, I've heard that joke for 20 years. Like it. Who cares? Come on with something funny, and I'll laugh at it or give you credit. Definitely not saying this is what I want. Furious.
Hey, notice how he put my name first.
He feels bad for you because somebody called you out before.
Who called me out?
Not called you out. I did the whole arms crossing. Like I hate Evan Neal. I wouldn't want him at 4, and I made fun of you about it, and you slowly like just put your arms back down. So somebody called it out. So TJ, to be really concise about it, because I've already said it, I don't want to keep repeating myself. The receivers in this class, compared to past year wide receiver classes, they would not be in the top 5 or 6 of those guys compared to the Chases, the Waddles, all those guys. And what is the difference between round 1 receivers and round 2 receivers? It's just I would be furious if they draft receiver at 10. I would be pissed. Good info on JJ. Yeah, I'll do the full breakdown will be out there. Some shows, me and Kyle will show some plays. Do I like any prospects? Geez, yeah, I like Thibodeau.
He just said he likes Sauce Gardner a lot.
I love Sauce Gardner. I love Tyler Linderbaum. I'm higher on Carl Loftus than some people probably are because now they're pushing him down because he can't bend, making him a bad player. There's plenty of people I like, but yeah, Jermaine Johnson, you know, I like him, but I would be more comfortable with taking him if Carl Loftus and those guys weren't there. You know, it obviously depends on how the board falls. And I like Jermaine Johnson. I'm just saying don't overhype him at this point because he won some one-on-one reps in a situation where you're supposed to win. Like it's, you know, having a two-way go is a hard world to win in as a tackle. I appreciate that.
When they say, listen, when they say Carl Loftus can't bend, listen, there are not that many guys in the league that are like really, really, really good benders. Like anywhere in the stratosphere, like someone like Von Miller. That is something that's very hard to be good at. He does win in many other ways, though.
Yeah. Chris, I'm not going to put up your next comment, but that is hilarious. I didn't know that, but
Wait, I keep it up. I can't stress how much I love this show compared to other podcasts. One Jets podcast, I had a quote draft expert literally was basing trades on his PFF mock draft simulator.
yeah. And again, that's my problem. Like people will regurgitate stuff they hear from people who are in the first place aren't even educated, and they'll just look up highlights, and that's their opinion. And that's the people listen to. And then you put up one dumb person will say James Carpenter is great or Bless Austin is great, and then you hear that regurgitated for weeks and months and months and months. And I'm on here and people are like, you're a fucking idiot. And then I'm putting up film and showing people who believe, like, even when I said Bless Austin was going to get cut and he's terrible or he should be cut, people are like, dude, what are you talking about? He got cut. He's terrible. Like, just look with your eyes. And you'll notice a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. People will ask them direct questions and they won't answer it. They'll deflect and then put the conversation to something else. So there's so many people who deflect questions. Just look at it. Then again, based on my career, I look for that stuff. I could just tell. You know,
this is the angriest I've seen you at others in a while.
Because around this time, people like to act like experts, and it drives me fucking nuts. You know, I have a press pass. I'm an expert now. It's like, okay. Good.
Yeah, Joe. I didn't see you at the Senior Bowl. What the hell do you know?
I work fucking 40 hours a week, and you know the stuff I'm doing on preparing for on the side now, with all that stuff and the website. So yeah, you know, I can go to Jets practices. Who cares? You know, does that mean an expert? No. What do you think about Olave at 10? No.
I do like Olave, but 10's probably a little too rich.
For no receiver. If it was Jamar Chase, if it was Devontae Smith, if it was Jerry Jeudy, if it was CeeDee Lamb.
Question then. Okay, I get it. Not a 10. Okay, so let's say you trade back from 10. And I know that this is a tough question to answer right now because you're still really evaluating a lot of the other prospects. What is the earliest in the first round you feel comfortable taking a receiver? Like, would it have to be in the 20s, the late teens?
Based on what I know now, if they trade down late teens,
okay,
I'll be comfortable with it. But 10 is like I think that's a crazy. Spin Max Dave, appreciate that. Hopefully you stick around more because I haven't seen you a ton. So we always kind of talk like this, which is why some people hate us or hate me. Are you a Burks or London guy? If wide receiver was to pick at 10, my worst case scenario would be London. I think Burks fits the offense because he's much more of a yak guy. London seems like a Mike Williams vertical, go up and get the ball type guy where that's not necessarily what you want in this offense. So definitely Burks if it was to be one of those guys. But I would be disappointed regardless. So moving on, Cam Thomas thoughts, bro, really? I know he's a second round option. If he gets drafted, I'll tell you, I haven't looked at him enough. I know it's early. Do you have a favorite late round prospect? What do you consider late round? The only like late round guy who's like really in the third or fourth round is Jeremy Ruckert because he's a Jets fan, and I like the nostalgia of that. But other than that, no.
My favorite late round prospect is Kenny Yeboah.
Kyle Phillips from UCLA, and I know what's his name brought that up before. He seems like a twitchy guy from some of the videos I've seen. I think that was Rusty didn't have a good night. Maybe he bounced because of that. Sorry to criticize you, Rusty, but I gotta call it out. Just it wasn't, you weren't on par tonight. Yeah, Carl Loftus. And
Trey
I think
Anderson?
People have compared him to what's his name too? Ryan Kerrigan. Like you're looking at guys who are powerful and technical. You could win being powerful.
I see more Kerrigan than Hendrickson, but Hendrickson's not a bad comp.
Hendrickson won a lot in New Orleans. I don't have to watch his stuff with the Bengals because of effort. Like you have Carl Loftus who's legitimately powerful, and somebody said up in the chat, which I would fight against heavily if you actually watch the review, who said that he's not going to be able to just bully guys at the NFL level in terms of Carl Loftus. Carl Loftus is much more than bullying guys. His technique is cleaner than Thibodeau or Jermaine Johnson by a long shot. He won a lot with technique. It wasn't just
his hand fighting is really good, and
his angles to the quarterback are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, like legit, amazing. Really good.
Yeah,
like
really
he's gonna take whatever you're giving him and he's gonna expose it.
If anything, more of the bully guys, like if you were going to say that would be more like, okay, bullying guys is Thibodeau. He can't just bully guys and use his athleticism to get around guys. Carl Loftus won a lot with technique. It wasn't just bullying. He took advantage of his strength while also being really technical about it. Like there's guys who just run into guys and try to overpower them. And there are guys who set their angles and bull rush guys, and it's completely different in that aspect. So, would you take Sauce, Stingley, or Hamilton at 10? I would take Sauce over those guys easily, and I would be pretty thrilled with him at 10. Obviously, depending on how the board fell, but I would be very, very comfortable right now.
I doubt you're getting him at 10, though.
Me too. Right, I don't know if we're gonna get to the.
And I don't think you're gonna get Hamilton at 10 either.
Yeah, you might. What's your top 5 tight ends? Can't tell you. Would you draft 2 tight ends if JD signs Everett? I don't think he's going to sign Everett because based on my knowledge of Everett, he is more of a guy who is a receiving guy. They need a guy who could both block and receive. But with that being said, I want them to invest in free agency and in the draft. So if they drafted Everett, yeah, sure, draft 2 tight ends. But I think it's going to be more of a guy like a Njoku or OJ Howard or, whoever else you like, and then a guy in the draft. But Everett, I don't think necessarily fits. Same thing with Gesicki. Like, people want Gesicki. He's basically a big slot receiver. Why are we going to sign him for a 12 personnel heavy system? He's going to be in line a lot.
I'll throw up if we sign Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, that's just yeah. Me too. Yeah. How many in this draft? I don't. I don't know. There's certain questions I'm not going to just answer. I don't know. I know this draft at the top is not as great as some other drafts.
There's usually like what 4 or 5 in the first round, something like that.
Yeah, it's not. It's this draft is not strong up top. I think the second to fourth round seems pretty loaded,
and because it's not as good, there would probably be more reason for trades, I would assume. Well, then there's not the trade. There's not going to probably be people clamoring up to trade for a quarterback, but there's probably going to be a lot of people that want to trade back.
Yeah.
So
who's your top linebackers? Have you watched either of these guys enough to know?
Dean. Who's the other one?
Lloyd.
No,
I plan on doing reviews of those guys, Dave. So in a couple of weeks, I should have a much better opinion for you. But that's another position of like if the Jets were to trade down a couple of picks, I would be comfortable taking. I'd rather take if again worst case scenario type of stuff. You said, hey, Dean, Lloyd, considering they actually deserve the hype, or receiver at 10, I'd be more willing to take one of those linebackers than one of the receivers. There's so many good receivers coming out in the last couple of years, like the second round, especially with a high second round pick. The Pittmans and the even Claypool, who's a little bit later than the second, right? Maybe a third. T. Higgins, Elijah Moore last year. Like, there's so many guys who are good coming out that a top 10 guy, especially when you have a receiver class where nobody stands above the rest. I really would hate it. NY Bully, another super chat. We're getting a decent amount of super chats tonight, Kyle. I appreciate the $10 super chat or the $9.99 from NY Bully. Would you trade pick 35 for Daniel Hunter or Hassan Reddick? Trade pick 4 to a QB needy team, acquire draft capital, and take a BPA with our first.
No way I'm trading pick 35 for those guys.
For Hunter? You could talk me into Hunter.
Yeah, but okay, I like him as a player a lot, but why has he not been playing though? Like, isn't like a big injury thing or something?
Yeah, that's the kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? That's the big question about this is what's the injury like? And he's 26, 27, so I would consider it, but it's a lot based around health. Reddick, I don't think so fit, so no. But if they were to trade, even if they could trade 4 right now, obviously depending on who's there, but a QB needy team in the draft, like let's say Icky, Thibodeau, and Hutchinson are gone, I'd be more than willing to trade the 4th overall pick. I don't think anybody's going to trade that high for a quarterback, but we never know. Like every draft, it's like how many times we hear there's gonna be so many trades and then there's no trades, or there's gonna be no trades and there's so many trades, or this guy's gonna get drafted here, he doesn't get drafted there. So
what did you hear? So I've heard mixed opinions. Some people are saying
appreciate it, NY Bully. I really
the Liberty, thanks NY Bully, the Liberty quarterback, I forget his name, is it Malik something?
Willis.
Some people said he's blowing it. Oh, he threw 75 miles per hour, but then other people say he wasn't that good at the Senior Bowl. I didn't watch, so
from what I heard, it was a lot of traits and not a lot of play. Like what he could be was a conversation. And NY Bully, I think he threw 2 super chats. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, he did too.
Yeah, too. Let's keep moving on. I don't think we're gonna get to the prospects. Yeah, Kyle, we're gonna push that off to next show, and we'll have more prospects to talk about. But it's 9:00, and again, I work midnight, so I have a pretty strict schedule, getting off at 8:00 when I work. Next week, my Wednesday show, I don't have any time frame, so we can go to freaking 11:00 if you want. Not you, but me. Okay, we are still. We're still plenty far behind, Kyle. I'm at 741 in the chat right now.
I've just been looking at what you put on the screen because.
Yeah. Look at that, Swolzy. Appreciate you. Always a big supporter. Can you make,
can you
make
put
you
his?
a salad?
Oh, never mind. I know you have to breeze still.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Can I make you a salad? No, I don't know if I trust you, J. Cole. Let's see. Keep moving on. In here, Jake. Okay. Sorry, again, I'm just scrolling through. No, Jets gang. I'm saying if he was in this draft, I'll be more than willing to take him at 10. But I'm saying there is no Jamar Chase. Don't get that confused. No way. I would definitely take Jamar Chase at 10 if he was in this draft. Or Devontae Smith. Or CD Lamb. Like those guys, and hearing the hype about those guys, it seemed like they deserved it. These guys, doesn't matter who you listen to, who you watch. Some people have London. Some people have Wilson. Some people still have Williams. Some people still...
Hold on a moment. You didn't love taking when we had the 11th pick. The year Lamb got drafted, you're like, I don't want Lamb at 11.
Okay, and all drafts are different. In that draft, there was 4 tackles who, or at least 3 tackles who were legitimately deserving of that pick. And I said I'd much rather have Becton, Wills, or Wirfs at 11 over those guys. Correct?
Oh, okay. But what if all of them were taken? I still don't think you would have wanted Lamb there.
I would have to look at what exactly was going to happen. But this draft is much more different than those drafts too. Like there's not a lot of it's not top heavy in this draft like some of those other drafts were. You know, like we have to go through and compare the prospects, like a big board of the prospects to see. But the best tackle in this draft is the 5th best tackle in that draft. You know, like it just is what it is. And in that draft, what Bosa? No, I don't know who was that. Was that Chase Young in that draft?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You know, compare Chase Young to Thibodeau. Like that's no contest. So much different. Would you double up on tight end in the draft? Obviously, depending on the board and who they grab in free agency. But yeah, even if they were to grab in the
supposed to be a deep tight end draft, right?
Yeah. So take advantage of the strength of certain positions. So if a guy is worth it at pick, I don't know, 116 that they have, and you already drafted Trey McBride at 35, then sure. Even if you grab Njoku, then you have 3-4 guys you're comfortable with. And you're looking at those 2 guys, whoever that is, Njoku and Tyler Kroft. Okay, cool.
And let's just say this too. Mike LaFleur loves running 12 personnel. There's a big difference between LaFleur and his personnel groupings between Gase. Gase was a big, heavy 11 personnel guy. So having multiple tight ends, especially when you don't have really one good one who can stay healthy, is a need for this offense. Because even though we had those garbage tight ends last year, LaFleur was still constantly deploying 2 of them at a time. So it's definitely a big need. So if you could grab 2, then cool.
I don't know exactly what this necessarily means. That J. Cole guy in Jet Central, that listener Elias was talking about was the idiot I told you used his PFF mock draft simulator proof of what the Jets could get. Also said draft Neal and put Fant as guard.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's Fant at guard. That is an absolute joke. I don't know who said that from that I don't know exactly who said that from Chris's super or chat, but no, that is a very bad decision. That's like saying Neal should play guard at this point. It's like what are we talking about here?
Let's just move McGovern out to tackle.
Yeah, why not? Why not put Tyler Kroft at corner too? Like what are we doing here? What about trading for Jerry Jeudy? They already paid Patrick and yeah, I don't think their roster is stacked enough to be trading first overall picks. Who I know he's been disappointing so far, but I would still like how much better is. I don't think Tim Patrick's a better player than Jerry Jeudy at this point. So why is a young team who has plenty of space to have guys around getting rid of him?
And Judy's better than Sutton too. And Aaron Rodgers, there's probably a decent chance that he's going there. Why would Aaron Rodgers not want Jeudy? Like he wants to go to a team that's ready to compete. So,
do you believe Bryce Hall can be numbers? Yeah, solid. I think right now he's proven to be a number 2, but I don't think he's probably proven to be a solid number 2 yet. I thought he could have proven that this year, but towards the end of the year, he's getting beat up against the Bucks. He was getting beat up versus Gabe Davis. He has some confidence issues to me. Not in terms of just in terms of him turning and running with guys. He opens up way too soon instead of taking advantage of his length and his size at the line of scrimmage. So
that's very frustrating.
Yeah, I think he's a solid. I think he's a number 2, but not a solid one yet. People put up PFF pass deflection numbers and assume he's a number 1 right now, which is crazy. And there's another thing today, like comparing Trayvon Diggs to Revis. Like, are we smoking crack?
I did see that. That was
what? How many touchdowns did Diggs give up this year?
That's even dumber than the George Fant at guard comment that we saw.
Yeah. Convince me that Thibodeau isn't Golston. Well, one, Golston was much more of a freak athlete than Thibodeau. And I didn't watch Golston's tape in 2007, 7 or 8? No, 8, right? So I can't necessarily, but if you're talking about like some of the effort and some of the concerns, like maybe, but they're two completely different players to my knowledge of what Golston was. Golston was an absolute freak. Thibodeau is not necessarily a freak. I think he might be more technically refined than Golston, but that's a hard. I can't convince you. He could be. You never know. Anybody could be Golston. You could take a Hutchinson and he could be as bad as Golston. Like Golston is what he was. It's kind of it happens in the NFL sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough to say. We weren't evaluating coaches' film back then, so.
A. Cole and Chris Reynolds are fighting a little bit in the chat. Whatever. All right, Kyle and Joe, you guys are first rounders. Sergeant Mike, you're a first round listener. I appreciate that, Sergeant Mike, and you're relatively new too.
Thank you, Sergeant Mike.
Recently, you've been in the chat a lot, so I appreciate you, Sergeant Mike, especially the super chat as well.
I'm surprised you didn't say like I was a mid rounder.
You're a guy who could slip to the second, but I would say it still is the first.
All right, I'll take it.
After I agree. I don't know who should up to 4. I think a trade down at 10 with Washington. Washington Generals being right behind us is much more, or Commanders. Commanders is much more realistic than a trade down from 4. I don't think it happens. I would love to trade down from 4 though, obviously, unless Thibodeau or whoever falls. I'm gonna keep moving on because we only have like 2 minutes left. Let's see if there's anything that's really highlighted. 4 again, not likely. 10 could be pretty likely, but I think people always talk about people like, oh, there's gonna be so many trades this draft. It's gonna be so crazy, and there's like one trade. It's like, okay, let's be rounded here.
Who's going to be wanting to move up and for what? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like usually there's more trade ups when there's quarterbacks worth taking.
That's the only thing I could see.
Quarterbacks worth taking.
Okay, the Steelers at 20 really want Malik Willis, and we're sitting at 10, and they want to give us a second and whatever else because Washington's there. Like that's the pick I could see, but I'm not going to bank on it. This time of year makes me nuts. Also, I love the draft, and I love and know football. So when I hear some of the guys make. It's just speculation season. I don't like talking about speculation. That's the problem. Who will be the combine standouts? Sauce Gardner. Who's another guy who might blow it up? I'm trying to think like anybody who like in our range who's really going to blow it up. I think Sauce will.
Do you think this Jermaine Johnson guy will?
No, like I don't know how good his 3-cone's going to be. Like. I'm trying to think like freaks of nature. Like even again, Jermaine Johnson's not a freak of nature. He has some physical limitations.
How do you think Linderbaum's going to do?
Good in terms of it's more like athletic testing. I think he'll do really well. Linderbaum's going to do well because he moves really well. There's no like the bench and stuff might not be the greatest, but
yeah, I know. I'm curious.
And arm length, like his wingspan arm length doesn't seem to be great, so people will knock him for that too. So maybe not excellent, but. I would say the guys that we're talking about, like Sauce Gardner, his size plus his movement skills is probably the most impressive like athlete I've watched.
But you don't think he's just like you think he's a 4-3 guy? Sauce.
I would if I had.
I didn't really see a ton of examples in your review that showed me that he is.
I don't think so. I think his top end speed is very good. But because of his length, I don't know how well he's going to accelerate off the line, if that makes sense. What would you rather have? Jets 4, 10, and 35 or Eagles 15, 16, and 19?
Well, the Jets also have 38 too.
Yeah, I would say the Jets just because 4 and 10 are obviously, much, much higher than I think the difference between 4 and 10 to 15 and 16 and the difference between is not equal to the distance between 35 and 19 to me. So I would say the Jets.
Yeah, I would too, especially when you consider we have 38 as well. So
another linebacker. I heard he's like a D-end linebacker hybrid, so like maybe for a Sam position. Evelyn and Floor, you guys have some crazy stamina. Okay.
Dude, this guy we were doing after the first preseason game, man. We did 4 hours at his house. I left, went home, I come on just to see, if he ended the stream and stuff. He's still going. By the time I drove home, we don't live close to each other, and he's still on
It was like
talking.
4.5 hours after the first preseason game. Yeah. And then the last one, Kyle, I started to feel it a lot, which I'm not a big like pre-workout drinker, but the other day I needed it. And I think it was the sauce one I started feeling at the end, dude. Like my lips started getting tingly and shit. I was like, oh, I got to get out of here because I already talk fast. Yeah, minus the trenches. The next super chat for $10, just West Coast Jets. Appreciate you, buddy. I support Joe's cockiness. Thank you for supporting that. Super chat for the cockiness. Again, I hope it comes off as more as confidence, but
it's both. It's
okay.
both.
Good. I'll take it. Better to be shy and nervous and not wanting to give my opinions, right? Good night, guys.
Well, see, we need people like you. We need people to call out people on their bullshit.
But the problem is, being an owner of the website now, I can't necessarily call them out directly. I'll just call out some of their takes and make you maybe open your eyes to see them. And then maybe you'll be sitting there and be like, you know what? Joe did say this about certain people. And you're like, oh my God, that guy just said that. Like, holy shit, stuff links up together. Maybe we could do that,
it'd be really funny if
Michael Ellis is not, or Elias or whatever it is, that's not, nobody's going to trade out for Icky or Neil. Continue, Kyle.
I said, what'd be really funny is if somebody assumed you were talking about them, and it would just be funny because it's like, well, do you do that stuff? Do you make these horrible takes and assertions and speculation?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Harry W, great point. Hamilton, yeah, Hamilton sauce. I don't know why I didn't think about Hamilton. Hamilton's gonna destroy the combine. That's 100%.
Oh yeah.
Good. I don't know, that completely skipped over my head, but yes, very good point, Harry. There's no pass rush at 4. I'll take Gardner. Really think about Linderbaum at 10. You could definitely convince me over some other things. I would still prefer Icky and then hope for Gardner at 10, or give me Karlaftis or Jermaine Johnson or Lloyd. I know I'm not telling people to hesitate on Jermaine Johnson because I think he's terrible, but people are hyping him up like he should be. No, undoubtedly, it doesn't matter who's there. Be the pick at 10. Let's chill a little bit on that.
Here's my thing with Icky versus Gardner at 4. I'm not so as a player right now, and I'm going to watch more than both of them on my own. I like Gardner better. The only reason I might lean Icky more is because offense, and I do want to help Zach out.
Yeah, exactly. So. In a vacuum, again, if you're just comparing the players, Icky versus Sauce at 4, I'm taking Sauce every day of the week, but considering Zach Wilson going through second year and needing that support, I'm taking Icky. Sully, love the knowledge and justification you guys bring in the videos. Appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. Moving on. Eagle Fang, you don't have to just keep spamming the website. Just Jets X Factor website. I'm sure they know how to get there. Just type into Google Jets X Factor.
No, you'd be surprised how many people don't. So do appreciate it, Eagle.
Love your stuff, Joe and Kyle. Who's your top reason? Thank you, Jack. Who's your top reasonable want in free agency besides Schultz? I'm not even going to say Schultz is my top reasonable want in free agency because I feel like he might be getting a little bit overhyped for what he actually brings, to be completely honest. And is he going to be that number one tight end and come to the Jets? Most likely not. But my top reasonable want in free agency, I want a tight end, but it's not like a top one if it's past Schultz, even though, again, he might be being overvalued. Who would you say, Kyle? I think
you're probably one of the receivers like Godwin or.
So I'm going to say Justin Reed. And
you're going to have to convince me because I don't know why you like Reed so much. Not that I say I'm not saying he's bad or anything like that. I haven't really seen anything that says, oh yeah, wow, this is a great player. But you bring him up frequently, so. Because I want to know why.
I bring him up frequently because I feel like he's the next guy after Marcus Williams and Bates. I think Bates is going to get tagged. Marcus Williams is that top guy. I never assume we're going to get the top guy, so I think Justin Reed is the next level below him. So, okay, Marcus Williams, Justin Reed, Chris Godwin. Do that?
And I got to be honest, I'd much rather have adding one of those receivers, even if it's someone in a trade like Cooper or something like that. That's a much bigger desire for me than a safety. And I know safety is a big need. I'm not acting like it's not. It is. But we need to help Zach out. Denzel Mims did him no favors this year.
The only thing I'll say about this, Chris, is a lot of like the modern day linebackers are like 225, 230, 235. It's not like the years ago when we were playing, David Harris at 245, 250. So 225 is not a concern to me. 6 foot's a little bit short, but I'm not overly concerned with that. You guys streaming the draft?
The whole 6 foot thing, like it has its positives and negatives. I don't really mind it so much in the run game because you want to obviously be able to get low to make tackles. But you take someone like Edmonds from Buffalo, 6'5", having height as a middle linebacker, it's going to make it harder to throw those crossing routes when you have a big motherfucker like that over the middle.
Well, I'd rather have a guy who's taller and athletic, obviously, but and it will hurt a little bit, like seeing in the backfield and seeing the handoff and seeing the mesh point and seeing the ball and some of that stuff in traffic. But the height, okay, it's a slight notch of concern, I guess. But the weight thing is not overly concerning for me, Moving on from that, I'm going to hit this really quick and I'm going to say goodbyes because
you need guys who can move in nowadays NFL.
Jets gang, no, maybe rounds 2 and 3, but rounds 1, I like to just watch it and have fun and have a couple of beers. I don't necessarily want. I'm not going to stream for that. Rounds 2, 3, maybe I'll stream after the first round of the draft, probably, and then maybe rounds 2 and 3 through it. Coach, no. Clinics, write notes, read books, yes. And I played in high school, but that doesn't really mean anything. Yes, I got to get ready for work. I got to go sleep. Okay, moving on. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Manny, the only thing is, like, I think they're realistically, like, it's going to be one of the offensive linemen at the top of the draft. So I don't necessarily want to overspend, but if you can land a guy like Laken Tomlinson or Connor Williams like that, I'd be cool with it, definitely. Keep moving on. I got a couple minutes left.
Laken Tomlinson always played left guard, so he'd have to move to right.
Okay. Evelyn, Florio, see you later. I can't get to the bottom of this. Who would be your pick if KT, Hutch, and Equan were off the board and 4 were locked? I am taking – oh, yeah, he said selling a mom account. I don't know who it is, though. Like, I think they said this last on Wednesday. Like, oh, this is my mom's account, but never switched. I don't know who is their main account. Who would be your pick at 4 if KT, Hutch, and Quan were off the board? I think me and Kyle will both say it's Sauce Gardner. Kyle, unless you want to contest that, I'm speaking for you, but any last words?
Yeah, no, probably Sauce. Part of me's thinking like, well, how much am I going to like Linderbaum? But you have to also understand, like, too, like, and need isn't the biggest thing in the world, especially when you're drafting that high. You don't want to factor in need, but corner is a much bigger need for the Jets than center.
With drafting Linderbaum, you have to move McGovern to a position, he played years ago that he's not necessarily the most comfortable in. So you kind of have to do that as well. So yeah, Sauce. And people are gonna say that's crazy. Again, is what it is. For the people who do watch the reviews, when that goes out there, watch it and you're going to see for yourself. He is one of the better players in the draft, but because people don't put him up there when they're talking about him, all these mock drafts, again, the problem with mock drafts is people see these mock drafts, they see a guy on a site that almost randomly generates some of these prospects rankings, and then they see them in rounds 2, 3, 4, and then they fall to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. People are like, oh my God, these guys are idiots. Why are they letting this guy drop? And it happens every single year. Let's not overvalue what PFN, what PFF, what the Draft Network, all those guys put on these rankings of these guys because for reasons. Okay, Kyle, last words. I gotta get out of here.
It was fun. Thank you, everyone. A lot of super chats tonight.
For sure. Yeah.
I noticed that there's a lot more participation and stuff when you can put the stuff on the screen, so that was cool.
Yeah, chats were. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Chats were flying in. Wednesday, I will see you guys at 6 to 8. Again, really quickly with that, I know people prefer it to be 8 to 10, but because of my schedule, I can guarantee pretty much I could be here 6 to 8 on Wednesdays, where if I work that night, 8 to 10 is a really tough spot for me to do. So I know people on the West Coast, we have a guy, West Coast Jets, who's throwing my super chats in here. Maybe he can't get in here at 6 o'clock because it's 4 o'clock there, whatever, or no, maybe it's 3 o'clock there. So I know that's a little bit of an issue for some people, but it is what it is for me to be able to do it consistently. So Wednesday, 6 to 8, next week, Thursday, and then I'm going to keep rotating, but I'll see you guys at Wednesday. Or on Wednesday. Appreciate you, and see you in a couple days.
Peace.